I don't need to analyze every word that comes out is a lie. Make it look like it's so ice. You won't make it to the finish line. But if you gotta know the truth was gonna let you go. It was fine, never mind, unpredictable. Fade out of the calm, you ain't no one. You will start, blow it up like supernova. In the nighttime, hit my hotline. Sharing secrets, you wish really was part of your life. Bad habits, better rabbit. Now sit down, you can have it.
Welcome back to Watts the Obsession, where we deep dive into a number of true crime cases. Thank you so much for taking time to watch this video. Please hit like and subscribe and the bell for future notifications. Gabriella Vargas is one of the genetic genealogists who testified in the State versus Bryan Kohberger preliminary trial hearing just recently. Her testimony was controversial as she disclosed that law enforcement sometimes has a roundabout, backhanded way of finding the suspects when they use the genetic genealogy investigative method to find suspects for a crime. Later that evening, the same evening that she testified in the Bryan Kohberger pretrial hearing, she was visited by two FBI agents at her home and her residence. What do we think about this? Here's a little bit that you should know about Gabriella Vargas.
But I'm also a pink-haired, tattooed mom from California who enjoys woodworking and gardening.
Gabriella Vargas is a genetic genealogist, probably one of the best in the country, if not the world.
Ms. Vargas then goes on to talk about a case that she solved that had been cold for over 30 years. This case sought to solve the murder of a young woman named Roxanne Wood, and Gabriella used investigative genetic genealogy to solve that 30-year-old cold case.
On February 20, 1987, 30-year-old Roxanne Wood was found.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome back to Watts the Obsession, where we cover a number of true crime cases. And this evening, we're going to be talking about the University of Idaho case, State versus Bryan Kohberger, as we remember the victims, Kelly Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xander Kernodle, and talk about issues of justice and humanity within this case. So that which I just played you in the very beginning of this live stream, it was, well, a little intro and then a little teaser for a video that I just uploaded that you're not going to leave this live to go watch, but you're getting sleepy. No, you're not getting sleepy. You're wide awake and you're going to watch it after the live. And it is all about Gabriella Vargas and some success that she has had in solving some really difficult cold cases. It's on the books, it's documented. She didn't just come out of nowhere like some people, I believe, are insinuating. At least it was definitely that way at first. Certainly, the state was insinuating that, saying, well, and I guess I can also understand why. These are issues that are up for discussion. You know, the state said, well, there's this witness testifying this pre-trial hearing, and we just got an email about it just yesterday, and there was not a CV attached, so they didn't want her to testify. They said, if we do not know what she is about, then we don't know what to do with her. We don't know how to handle this witness. We don't know how to best represent the people of the state of Idaho when this witness comes on the stand if we don't know what she's doing. Initially, I thought, well, maybe she's like maybe she is maybe she's a gypsy. Maybe she's just, she's not legitimate. But my friends, that is not the case at all, as you will see when you check out the video I uploaded, but after the live stream, okay? So, welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here tonight. Everybody in the chat, chat away. I love seeing what you guys are talking about, and you guys always bring up things during a live stream that I had not considered before and possibly never would consider that, are really important and critical to the case. So thank you guys so much for that. And thank you everybody who's watching the replay crew represent, and I'm sure, and you guys are awesome as well. So, where do we go from here? There's always so much to talk about with this case. So first of all, there were some new docs dropped. So we're definitely going to take a look at those. All right. So let me just show you the website where you find the court cases, and you can just Google Idaho judicial cases of interest or just Idaho court cases of interest. Anything like that is going to get you there. And then you are going to find, there's a number of different cases. The State versus Kohberger case being the longest one, of course. Right now I'm just scrolling through. Okay, starts here. Dang, look at this, So we start here in the end of December. Bryan Kohberger, for those of you who don't know, or if you're new to the channel, welcome, first of all. It's also something that you should know. Bryan Kohberger was arrested on my birthday. In fact, my son woke me up. It was the first thing I hear. Mom, they arrested somebody for the murders in Idaho. My dad had called him and he's like, wake your mama up. She's going to freak out. Happy birthday. So that was very cool. I mean, just a little personal connection I have, or memory that I'll have about this case, because like many of you, I'm sure, if you were following it at the time, it was like the best news ever to hear that there was an arrest. Okay. So here we're going through February, March. A lot happened on March 7th. March, April, May. Wow. A lot happened in May, June. A lot happened in June and July, of course. And then into August. August certainly did not disappoint. So the last few court documents here that were submitted to the court in the form of motions or responses, we're going to take a look at. So let's see, should we just go in chronological order? I guess we're going to look at the doc drops from August 29th and August 30th. So today is August 30th here in New York. It is 10 p.m. on August 30th, late in the day. All of the documents that are labeled August 30th just appeared here today. And some of them that are labeled August 29th also just dropped for us, the public, today as well. Oh, gosh. And I also want to say, AF, thank you so much for leaving a super chat before the live stream even started. That was awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It's wonderful to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I really very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Let me make this bigger for you too. Okay. And hi, Shell Jones. Hey, Otter. I'm so happy you're here, Speedy. I got that email out when I started to think I got to get an email. I was specifically thinking of you. Hello, G of Twins. Okay. Buffering here too. Oh, is everything running okay now? Is the volume okay? Hey, Suspicious. I hope you're doing well, sweetheart. Hey, girl mama. How are you doing? Hey, Mike, how's it doing? How you doing? How's it doing? Hey, Red Foxy 19, and everybody else. I'm not gonna. And hey, Mrs. B, how are you doing? Gosh, I want to say hi to y'all. Honey bun, I love y'all. You know that. Hey, Scarlett, welcome to Watts the Obsession live stream and chat. I'm not sure if I've seen you here before. If you've been here, I'm sorry about that. All right. Mike says, I bet the Delphi courthouse employees were relieved by BK's arrest too. All the mass media attention moved away from Delphi and Allen onto Moscow and BK. That's true. And that's exactly where we went too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, oh goodness. Okay. So let's just take a look at these docs. So we'll go in chronological order from, I pulled them all up here, but since I'm going to, wait, let me shut them all so I don't confuse myself. Oh, darn it. Can I get that one back? Okay. There was one that had a really interesting just statement on it I kind of wanted to lead with, but it's okay. We're going to get to it. All right. So now, as you know, there was, let's see, order extending notice of hearing. Okay. Well, let's just take a trip back in time for a sweet moment here to August 24th. Share this tab instead. Click over. Oh, nice. That actually worked. Amazing. So way back in August 24th, which is less than a week ago, there was a motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. And at that particular time, I am certainly in this group of people I'm about to describe. Many people are like, oh, no way. Because what had just happened was the defense witnesses testifying. There were 4 total, all, I believe, speaking to the issue of the investigative genetic genealogy, which we could debate whether or not that is an issue forever. I certainly believe it is, because although they do have that buccal swab straight from the inside of Bryan Kohberger's cheek that yielded the astronomical number of 5.37 octillion chance that that the DNA sample that was found on the knife sheath was from him over anybody else in the world. And by the way, 5.37 octillion humans is more humans than have ever walked the face of the earth. It's a huge statistic, right? So although we do have that, and that is important, because what should be most important here is who committed this crime and how can we find justice for the victims and peace for the families. End of story. The problem is we have this justice system that is supposed to run a certain way, and we have to hold the officers of the justice system accountable for their behavior and their professional conduct within that justice system. So we're talking judges, lawyers, and, the rest, and on down the line. And when they do not do their job in an ethical way, when they don't give their client the effort that they deserve, when they don't do things that follow criminal procedure or criminal process or civil procedure, then we have a problem, because we must ensure that every person who might be charged with a crime is going to be afforded the same rights, that sees to it that, if we had to go to a trial, that things go down correctly. So we have to want that for everybody. We have to want that for everybody, or we cannot assume it for ourselves, should that time ever come, and let's hope that it doesn't, right? So the defense, this is my opinion on it. I've heard a number of attorneys speak on it. I talked to, a relative of mine who's an attorney and our What's the Obsession legal consultant about it. And their opinion I've heard echoed across YouTube. And I started to develop the opinion myself that, although we do have that solid DNA match with the buccal swab, the cheek swab, and the match to the knife sheath, and then that 5.37 octillion statistic, the defense has every right to question everything that went down every step of the way as law enforcement was investigating this case, as they were turning their heads towards Bryan Kohberger, and as they were putting together a case towards the arrest of Bryan Kohberger and a search warrant for basically his person, his belongings, and his whole life. Now, I will be clear. I have, from the beginning, I don't believe I rushed to judgment. In my opinion, the evidence that I've seen has indicated his guilt. And that's where I am still at. I am willing to leave that position should the evidence guide me there. So I'm not some pro Kohberger's innocence girl. But he still needs justice like all the rest of us. All right, so let's go ahead and look at these documents. So first up is, so we went back to August 24th, where the defense filed a motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. Let me bring it back full circle, where a lot of people, I include myself in this group, were like, oh, no, we can't do that, because if cameras were not allowed in the courtroom, we wouldn't see some of the curious and questionable, and rightfully questionable, nuances and things that were going down in the courtroom that we observed while these 4 defense witnesses put forth their pre-trial testimony. Defense wants cameras out. In my opinion, we the people want cameras in. What do you think? You know what? I'm going to make that a poll really quick here. Do you think cameras should be in the courtroom? You just please answer yes or no. I would love to hear what you think. We all want to know what you think, so please give your vote. And everybody, when you get a second, just click the thumbs up, hit the like, get this live stream out to the feed of more people. And we want to invite people in to have a discussion about these issues with us. Do you think cameras should be in the courtroom during the state versus Kohberger trial and proceedings? Okay. Simple yes or no. Okay. Awesome. Start poll. Did it start? Yeah. Start poll. Can I start? Add option. I guess we could do that. Why is the poll not starting? Is it starting? Do you guys see the poll up? Is the poll up? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. All right. I don't need to add an option though. Okay. I don't know. I guess I can be like, I don't know, since I already clicked it. Right. Oh, your question is too long. That was a problem. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, very good. Now I can start the poll. Awesome. All right, so please vote yes or no. Do you think the cameras should be in the courtroom during the state versus Kohberger trial? All right, so let's start looking at those documents now. Knowing that the defense filed a motion for the cameras to be removed from the courtroom, let's start looking at the documents that dropped from yesterday into today. So, interesting thing here. There was an order for KXLY media request. They were requesting to have their cameras, audio, and video in the courtroom. Now remember, just 5 days before, the defense filed a motion to get the cameras out of the courtroom. So I think what was decided here is an indication of the direction clearly in which the judge is going or leaning at this time. Now remember, the judge said, you know, what got the cameras kicked out of the Valo Daybell trial is when the cameras were fixated on the defendants. During the last live stream, we discussed how we were alarmed with Court TV's cameraman. Maybe he should take a little break, get a new cameraman for the duration of this trial at least, who is not looking at Kohberger's mug through that lens the whole time. Because the judge explicitly stated, that's what's going to get your freaking camera kicked out. Let's not do that, all right? Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, here, let me switch this over. All right. So they just, we want cameras in the courtroom, says this media outlet, audio and video. And what was checked off here was the court, having considered the request for approval under Rule 55 of the Idaho Court Administrative Rules, hereby orders that permission to video audio record the above hearing is granted. So in my opinion, and for the sake of the people and of justice, this is a good sign. The judge granted the permission that was requested from this media outlet for video and audio recording in a certain hearing. So it says, please see the order governing courthouse and courtroom conduct. All right. Ooh. Granted. Wait. Granted and denied. Wait a minute. I'm now confused by this. Okay. All right. So what is... Okay. So this comes in sections. Okay, so video and audio recording is granted. When I read this the first time, I read it incorrectly. So it's like I'm reading for the first time here with you guys. That's fine. And then, okay, the next request is the court, having considered the above request approval under Rule 45. Okay, hereby orders that permission to broadcast the above hearing is denied. So this is consistent with what the court has been, how they've been ruling or ordering all along. Yes, you can have your cameras in there, audio and video, fine. Just don't focus on dude's mug. Or as one of these court documents is going to say, the defense maintains that one of the cameras was focused and zoomed in on Bryan Kohberger's fly for far too long a duration during one of the pretrial hearings. Okay. The judge hasn't explicitly ruled on whether or not the camera should be aimed at Kohberger's fly. But we do know, just not his likeness, but live broadcasting is not allowed. So this is consistent with what we know. All right. Next document. Okay, so this is interesting. So this comes in after those 4 witnesses testified for the defense, I believe all having to do something with investigative genetic genealogy or IGG. The one that has been talked about the most, of course, is Gabriela Vargas. She is a witness who the FBI paid a visit to 2 FBI agents. Later that same day, that evening of her testimony, and we can talk about that a little more later. I don't want to go into it too much right now just to stay on track, but she has tended to be the most controversial. And gosh, I wish I could get to chat more, but I can't right now. I got to get through this. Yeah. But I'm so glad you guys are all here. Welcome. For those of you just coming in, come on in, get comfortable. So glad you're here. And yeah. I have to close them after we look at them because it's easy to, okay. So this is a longer document and it's pretty interesting. I'm going to read some of it because I do think that this one is pretty interesting. So this is the public notice of intent not to cross-examine the defense's witness. So this is a notice that has been put forth by the state. And again, it is the, nope. Share that. Let me close the tabs I don't need. All right. Okay. It is a public notice of intent not to cross-examine the defense witnesses. So, at the hearing on the state's motion for a protective order and defendant's third motion to compel, held on August 18th, 2023, the court allowed the state to reserve cross-examination of 2 witnesses, Gabriela Vargas, who the defense disclosed without a CV. This is what I was talking about earlier in the live, the day before the hearing, and Leah Larkin, for whom the defense disclosed a PowerPoint presentation for the first time during her direct examination. The state has determined that it need not cross-examine either of these witnesses. So this is kind of interesting here because all along the defense has been saying, a state, you've got to give us your discovery. You've got to give us your discovery. Although in Idaho, the rule for discovery disclosure can be up to the day of the trial. The judge in this case did mark it at an earlier date that is yet to come up, but is coming up very soon because the judge is at liberty to do so. But I do feel that the defense was acting like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to look at it. The defense wanted the information. At that time, they were working under what we now have learned was a guise posing as a defense team who was going for a trial that was in, well, they say just outside the speedy trial limits. In part of the hearing on August 18th, we know that Bryan Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial. And Ann Taylor spoke a little bit about the necessity of, filing or using the waiver for the speedy trial hearing until they said they no longer wanted it. And in my opinion, what she said basically said, we were just playing the game that everybody knew we were playing. We were trying to force the state's hand so they would have to show us what they had because, well, gosh, if we're going to be trying to do this death penalty case in 6 months, man, we better get that information, right? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so back to the document. Oh, I'm sorry, but now roles have switched. That's where I was going with that. Now it's saying, the state is saying, we are not seeing enough of the credentials of the witnesses you are putting forth, or, You know, another issue was the alibi that your client might be putting forth. Show us more, show us more. So both sides right now, it seems to me, are a little bit anxious and kind of chomping at the bit, wanting to get every little morsel they can from one another, because, you know, every bit of information they can get from the other side is ostensibly going to give them a leg up and position them better to, you know, get ahead in this trial. Of course, each side wants to win. Dang it, Nancy. I love that. That's a great name. Double R says, What's the obsession? I hope you're able to read my previous chat message directed towards this great channel. FYI, this is what I throw them thighs at. Oh, I didn't see it, but I will definitely go back to check it. Thank you so much. Yes, thanks, Double R. I'm really glad you're here. I think I just put you on the witness list, or the witness list, Jesus, the notification email list. Had you been getting the emails before? And if anybody does want to get notifications for when we have live streams, you can email me at wattstheobsession@gmail.com. If somebody could put my email address in the chat, that would be great, because I know that YouTube notifications are not always reliable. If you're wondering, the What's the Obsession live stream comes up on my algorithm, pants off immediately. Oh yeah, that's right. What's the Obsession on, pants off. You're so funny. Oh, and then you said, What's the Obsession, Kelly? Hey, first of all, thanks for the subscriber-only email. Pretty nice. You really do not need to explain yourself. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to share with you guys some of my thoughts beyond just, hey, this is, you know, the live stream that's coming up. But thank you. I do appreciate that. And I can read to everybody too. Okay. Oh. I think I got that, McJade. Kelly, check your email. I just sent you an email with a motion to intervene by the media. Yeah, that was I got that one. I'm just kind of working my way down. But I should work quicker. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So here, all right. So let me keep working through the documents here. Working quicker. I can do it. All right. So as you go through this document, again, this is the state's notice of intent to not cross-examine the defense witnesses that they put forth that had to do with the investigative genetic genealogy. In addition, the state mentioned during its argument at the hearing that the Judge Whitney in Canyon County ruled on a similar issue 1 week prior to the hearing, and that the state would not provide the written ruling once available. The transcript of the hearing is now available, and the relevant portion of the transcript is attached as Exhibit A. Finally, the hearing on August 23rd, 2023, defense counsel suggested in open court that the state had improperly contacted Ms. Vargas. The state has attached under seal as Exhibit B the reports and other records that explain that contact. The state would ask this court to grant the requested protective order or permit the state to present the information it seeks to protect to the court in an on-camera hearing. Okay, so Exhibit A attached to this motion here is the transcript of the testimony of one Gabriela Vargas, investigative genetic genealogy expert. And so after this live stream here, what y'all are going to do is follow this link over to a video that I had just uploaded that talks about her success in some cold cases. She didn't just come out of nowhere. She has experience, and it's in the books. Here you go. Okay. Wait, what are you asking? Wait, what on DC primetime? Hi, Aussie True Crime. Wonderful to see you. Oh, these live streams are past my bedtime. I'm sorry. Oh, no, thank you, Mrs. B. You guys are so sweet. Yes, and please do push the like button. I would very much appreciate that. Thank you, Scarlett. Mike says, if you can scroll up, that's really hard to do, Stacey. If you can just write it again. I'm trying to do You know what I mean? There's like a lot going on from my end. But if not, I'll try to. We saw that with the Murdaugh trial. A lot of, quote, legal experts, end quote, were harping about how weak the state's case was, while most regular Joes watching thought he was guilty as fuck. Yeah, that's right. Scroll up on the document. Yeah, you got it, girl. Okay. So scroll up on the document. I can't do that. And I'm going to post the link to come up on panel. If you want to talk me through this, DC, you're welcome to, because I have to kind of like keep clicking back and forth. Where do you want to see on the document? Good night, Scarlett. Thank you for being here. So that's just the court stenographer. Indexes of appearance, transcription by. I'm not sure what it is we want to see. I hereby certify that true and correct copies of the notice of intent not to cross-examine defense witnesses, district court and decision, and records to explain witness contact was served on the following. Okay, so here, what is attached to this motion is the transcript. Exhibit A is a transcript of Gabriela Vargas's testimony all about investigative genealogy and how law enforcement goes about building out those profiles in the process to get matches in the investigative genetic genealogy process. And Gabriela Vargas implied and just boldly stated that they do wrong. They break the rules when they're doing that, they being law enforcement. So, okay. Now, Exhibit B is, remember, Gabriela Vargas was the witness that the two FBI agents visited the night right after her testimony, saying, law enforcement does things the wrong way. And she was very pained and nervous in her testimony saying this. I can't imagine she's going to get hired by law enforcement again. She opened her own investigative genetic genealogy company. I don't know how that's going to go for her, but, I certainly wish her luck. But Exhibit B is this, under seal with the court. Exhibit B attached to the state's notice of intent. Let me get myself out of there. Not to cross-examine defense witnesses. Witnesses, district court decisions, and records to explain witness contact. All right. So that's what we are going for. The Exhibit B is the state's notice why we're not going to cross-examine the witnesses that the defense put forth that all talked about the importance of knowing all the steps to that investigative genetic genealogy process. And also, what is under seal is a district court decision and also records that are going to explain why two FBI agents showed up at Gabriela Vargas's, witness for the defense, door just hours after she testified. Now, I don't want to watch a huge part of her testimony, but just a couple words I think is relevant here. Let me just get to it. And this is a video I uploaded yesterday, keeping you guys apprised of the latest and greatest. Oh, I'm sorry, it was actually August 28th. And let's just hear a little bit of what she had to say. I also did some, not closed captioning, but I wrote out the words for you because Bryan Kohberger's head attorney, Ann Taylor, was wearing a COVID mask while she was questioning the witnesses, and it made for hearing the recording really tenuous. So I love you guys. So yeah, I did that for you. All right. Not all of her words though, because it's a process, but the important ones. All right. They're all important, the most important, you know what I'm saying? All right. Check it. To find. Guys, This is alarming, and I can't understand why more people aren't making a big deal about this. I don't know if this would be a matter of witness tampering. We don't have all the details, but in my mind, if it is not, it certainly must come close. And should we allow that to be acceptable?
Does law enforcement have access to all of them?
If properly uploaded, there's a fee that you must pay. You must upload through a separate database than the one in which consumers upload through. You must pay the fee, and you, depending on the case, may be limited on the matches that you are able to see. The terms of service have changed several times since the Golden State Killer case came out, and which investigative genetic genealogy became very popular. It used to have everyone opted in, then it the GEDmatch opted everybody out, and you had to choose to opt in to law enforcement match as a consumer. Then it decided to automatically opt DOE cases in. So to break that down, if you were to take a DNA test, the ancestry, and want to upload to GEDmatch, when you input that file, it's going to ask you, do you consent to law enforcement matching? And if you hit no, and I am working violent crime non-DOE case, I should not be able to see that you are a match to my unknown DNA contributor.
You said should not.
Should not.
Does it happen anyway?
Okay, so, this is important. So she says, she's explaining something. If you missed it, we're going to get to the point here anyway. Ann Taylor asks, you said should not.
You said should not.
Should not.
And then she asks, does it happen anyway? And then this is when, in my opinion, Gabriela Vargas becomes a little more pained in her responses to Ann Taylor's questioning.
Does it happen anyway?
It does. It has.
And is that because there's a problem with GEDmatch? It's just fluke, you upload it, and all of a sudden these things that shouldn't happen did?
There there are a lot of tools that are available in GEDmatch. These tools allow you to make comparisons of two or more people and how they relate to each other and share DNA. One of these tools allows you to compare many matches, not only against your DNA profile that you're working, but also against all of their matches to see if their matches match each other. When you utilize this tool,
I'm going to move forward a little bit because I want to play the whole thing, but
top matches, it will in turn compare the profile to all of the matches and all of the matches to everyone on that list of 100 people. Okay?
I didn't see what you're saying. Let me make sure. So you have one person, you get a list of their matches, but this tool also gives you a list of those matches.
what she explains here, guys, is that you can go around and not honor the customer, the consumer's opt in or opt out the law enforcement database by finding someone's profile, finding their top cousin match, looking at the top 100 matches of that cousins match, the top 100 matches of the profiling questions match. See which ones are not present, are present on the top cousins matches, but not on the profile in question. And when that happens, you know those particular matches opted out of law enforcement database. So rather than to say, okay, they opted out, and this opted out is an acknowledgement and a signed and binding legal contract with all of these different DNA companies. I've read through way too much small print of several of these companies in different words. I believe it says something similar. It's a binding legal contract that has been put forth by the company, has been signed by the user, and in that, the language of the contract, the company says, in your signing, this is now a binding contract. So when you're looking at those, the profile and questions matches and the top cousins matches, and you can find which ones opted out of law enforcement database, then those are the ones you probably want to zoom in on. So what is happening to the wishes and the legal contract specifications of those users that didn't want to opt into the law enforcement database, they are now being targeted. That's a big deal. Even outside of this case, I mean, the most important thing, of course, is this case here. It is justice for those victims and peace for their families. But then when we look at the bigger picture outside of this case, you don't want to sign what you believe is a contract that is a binding contract with a company. And when you say, I don't want you to treat me in such a way, now you are specifically the target for that treatment. This is not good.
So it's a multi-step process. So initially, if I am putting my subject's DNA in the system, I don't know who it belongs to, I put their kit number in. You get a kit number after you upload the data, okay? I put the kit number in, I run a tool called one-to-many, and it's gonna show the top 500 matches that this subject has. I then would go to utilize the manipulation tool, the loophole. You would then go click the top match and run their matches.
And this is what I just explained to you guys. So I'm going to go past this a little bit because I just explained it.
You're not looking at your subject's matches. You're looking at that person's top cousin, let's say, that top cousin's matches, right? When you put your subject's kit number in there, you're gonna see now his kit, her kit, compared against the matches of their top match. When you find, you then scroll down and you look, oh, here's the match for 100 centimorgans. You go back to your screen where you have your...
This is reiterating what I just said. I was trying to use more layman's terms than her, but maybe she just does a better job because she's the expert, not me.
List of your subject matches, and you say, I don't have a match with 100 centimorgans. That proves that that person has opted out of law enforcement matching, but I'm still able to see them.
And so that's a way to use the tool to get past what law enforcement is supposed to do.
So the question that Ann Taylor asks is, oops. So that is a way to use the tool to get past what law enforcement is supposed to do.
To get past what law enforcement is supposed to do.
I struggle with this. I'm sorry. It is a tool that is provided in the database that essentially allows you to see things that you're not supposed to see. And as a result of seeing those things, you're then using that match to find to identify your subject. So you're violating the terms of service by seeing these matches.
I just want to answer this question here, and I hope that makes sense to everybody. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I'll do my best to answer them. I don't know anything more than anyone else does about this. It's just that I have listened to it and picked it apart, and I've just, scrutinized it so I could hopefully explain it pretty well to people, because I noticed there was a lot of confusion about this, and rightfully so. It is very kind of like high-level sciencey stuff. So KJ asked, and hi KJ, welcome. If the genealogy company knows about the loophole, then why have they not closed it? Well, let's think about why companies exist, why they function, and why they do what they do and make the decisions that they make. In my opinions, companies do what they do and they make the decisions that they make for profitability, for their bottom line. There certainly are a few exceptions, but I think it has been shown time and time again across history, across cultures and societies, that companies are out for making here in the United States, it's a good old American dollar. So if by not closing these loopholes, let's just say 23andMe, just pick one of the companies, 23andMe has a product out there that it is marketed to say, hey, 23andMe, find your grandma and grandpa, or whatever it is, right? For someone like me, you, any of us, to, just check out our family trees. I know, like, my grandfather used to make these elaborate family trees. I know everybody in my family from the Ukraine back to, a really long time ago, because he was a meticulous man and he just loved to do that kind of thing. A lot of people want to know about themselves. They want to know about their history. They want to know about their families and where they came from. It's a very normal, natural human thing, right? So 23andMe is, our target demographic, our target market is the me and you and all of us, the Kelly and DC Primetime and Mrs. B and Mike and Sis Vicious and all you guys here who want to know about themselves, and they want to know more about their families, and maybe, they're wondering if they have a sibling out there they didn't know about, or whatever the case may be. So you're like, wow, you can use this 23andMe to do a lot of things. You can just do a nice family tree project for school. You can be like about my grandpa and be like really like, very deeply interested in researching your family's roots and learning about your culture and as much as you possibly can of your own personal history. Or maybe you're not sure if you're adopted, or you're adopted and it's time I want to find my parents or my siblings or whatever. Wow, that product really does offer a lot of possible services. There's a lot of uses for the consumers out there, Mike and Mrs. B and DC Primetime and Kelly, and Amy Terry, and there are a couple of people there. And let's see, Waken Yan Tonka. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you WT. I don't want to mess up your name. And WT also is a possible consumer. So you're marketing to a range of a group of people, and there's a range of purposes for your product. But maybe 23andMe knows that they're going to make more money, that they are going to have more ways of getting fees and making their product desirable and viable and sellable if they know that there are more underhanded uses for it, like law enforcement can use it. And there's these certain tools that can be manipulated. And if you're just like me and you're looking for, your family tree back to your great, great, great grandparents, then I'm going to use these tools in a certain way. But if you're in law enforcement and you want to use these tools for the exact reverse purpose of what they are intended for your general Kelly and DC Primetime and Mrs. B and Mike consumers, then hey, your product also has an off-label purpose. It's going to sell more. It's going to gain more fees. It's going to offer more services. It's going to contribute more to your bottom line as a company. So to answer the question, If the genealogy company knows about the loophole, why haven't they closed it? In my opinion, that's our answer.
This is in GEDmatch.
How about family tree DNA? That's the other law enforcement status.
There's two things that I'm aware of in family tree DNA. One is not paying to upload. So there's very strict parameters when it comes to law enforcement kits. One of the parameters is if you as a consumer are a match to a law enforcement kit, you cannot see that kit as a regular consumer. So law enforcement kits can see everybody in the database that has opted in. Now, Family Tree also has an opt-in out feature that is not the same as GEDmatch. You have to go into the settings and find it and toggle whether or not you choose to opt in or out. Many people are unaware of this.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I may have been getting things a little confused there because, again, I'm not an expert in this field whatsoever. Amy Terry says, and yes, exactly. You take your info from Ancestry or 23andMe, and you put your info into GED Match, and that is correct. And that offers some more clarification above and beyond what I said. Thank you.
Another instance is uploading the data as if you were a consumer. You bypass the fees that you're supposed to pay to Family Tree DNA for a law enforcement kit, whereas a consumer it's free. And you also get full access to the database, including matches that have opted out.
Does this happen?
Yes.
If I'm an attorney and I have a case where genetic genealogy has been utilized by law enforcement, and I want to know if they follow the protocols and rules, do I need the genetic genealogy information that, like you produce as a forensic genetic genealogist? Do I need that information so I would know?
If you wanted to know what the process was, whether
I'm gonna
or
skip
not
past this.
there was
Oops, sorry.
to one.
Oh, wait, I
This
just want
process, there
to answer a question really quick here. Hey, Riddler, how you doing, sweetheart? Riddler says, doesn't a judge's warrant override the company's policy? Well, certainly it could if that is how the warrant is written, right? But remember, at the point in the process that is in question, when the investigators were working in this investigative genetic genealogy track, so to speak, it was leading up to obtaining a warrant. It was leading up to establishing probable cause to submit to a judge to have a warrant signed, right?
there's a lot of time, effort, and work that goes into it. In the end, what I provide to law enforcement is an investigative lead, and it is up to the agency to then take over their case and confirm that my lead is in fact correct.
How does law enforcement upload my judgment?
So the upload to these databases is you go to the website, you create a free account, you take the data file, you hit upload, and voila, you've got now a list of matches. It's the same as a regular consumer would do in both MyHeritage and Family Tree DNA. GEDmatch law enforcement uploads now through a separate portal called GEDmatch Pro, but there are instances of people doing work on behalf of law enforcement uploading to GEDmatch through the consumer portal as if it were a consumer kit.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I'm not sure if prosecutor does.
Okay, so then she's excused. So that's what we have there. And, no, guys, that is what it is. Back to the documents. I am going to I'm going to put the link. If anybody does want to come up on panel and say something, when I'm going through so many different documents and videos like this, sometimes it's just easier if somebody just wants to speak their mind. If you have a strong feeling that you want to share something in that way, you're welcome to. Okay. All right. So next. So then we have the motion to temporarily seal Exhibit B, which is that FBI's excuse, so to speak, for speaking to the witness shortly after her testimony. All right. So this is the motion to temporarily seal Exhibit B of state's notice of intent not to cross-examine defense witnesses, the district court decision, and the records to explain witness contact pending the hearing. And again, that was the FBI contact pending the hearing. Do a different frame so it's a little bigger for you. All right. Come now, the state of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, and hereby moves the court pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule, yada yada, for a temporary order sealing Exhibit B of state's notice of intent not to cross-examine defense witnesses, district court decision, and records to explain witness contact herein, because the release or disclosure would 1. Interfere with enforcement proceedings. 2. Deprive a person of a right to a fair trial or impartial adjudication. It says 2 again because we love to have typos in these very important court documents. So our second 2. Constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. 3. Disclose the identity of a confidential source, and or 4, disclose the investigative techniques or procedures. Well, at this point, I think that there is a substantial reason for the public of Moscow, the public of Latah County, the public of Idaho, and the public of the United States, the public of the Western Hemisphere of the world, and the public of the free world to be concerned with how things are going down and wanting to have answers to some of these issues that have arisen and that we have got an inkling of. I am starting to wonder when that concern that I believe, are completely justified in having as the public matches up with these 1, 2, 2s, 3, and 4. You know what I'm saying? This case is frustrating. The undersigned seek the protection pending hearing on this matter, whereof the state respectfully prays that the court seal from public disclosure Exhibit B of the state's notice of intent not to cross-examine the defense witness, district court decision, and records to explain witness contact under the provision of yada, yada, yada. What do y'all think that means? I mean, what the heck was that? Okay. So there's that. And then there is an order following that motion. So essentially, the order saying, all right, as you wish, state. Yeah. Temporary order. Okay. As you wish, state. As your motion requested, so shall be granted by the court as of the 29th day of August, 2023. Oh boy. Next. and I think this is a really big deal. I'm not trying to gloss over it like it's not a big deal, but I think we already talked about the content, the material part of, what is in these exhibits and why it's important. So I'm just going to move on. All right, brand new doc drops, 1, 2, 3. Here's one. So here is the motion to continue the hearing date. All right, and so this is just, I'm just going to read it. Proposed interveners move for the court for an order continuing for the September 1st, 2023 hearing date of defendant Bryan Kohberger. So when you want a continuance, it means you want to push it further down the road. All right. So they want to push it further down the road. And because the motion was filed August 24th, 2023, with a hearing set 8 days later. Although proposed interveners are responding as quickly as they can, counsel for the proposed interveners will be out of town September 1st, 2023 for long scheduled travel, and I hope it's not personal. Proposed interveners also seek additional time to fully respond to Mr. Kohberger's motion. Accordingly, proposed interveners seek a continuance for at least 1 week to date convenient to the court and the parties. Now we have the motion to intervene. Oops, let me take that down. Hey, everybody, welcome. If you're just coming in, so glad you're here. Welcome. Come on in, get comfortable. All right, so now we have the motion to intervene, and I'm going to blow this one up. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to read it. All right. On June 23rd, 2023, the court entered an order allowing for 20 media outlets with the Associated Press as a lead media outlet to intervene in the case for limited purpose of, let me just make sure no one's backstage, limited purpose of challenging the then in place amended non-dissemination order, which we casually call the gag order. Order granting motion to intervene for limited purposes at 1 to 2. A nearly identical media coalition at this time, consisting of 13 outlets, again seeks to intervene. This time for the limited purpose of opposing Bryan Kohberger's motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. So they're saying now there's 13 outlets that are standing up. They're pushing against either, just vocally or I think in the form of court filings against Mr. Kohberger's motion to remove cameras from the courtroom. That was filed August 23rd, 2023, and currently set for hearing of September 1st, 2023, for any other proceedings affecting media access to the proceedings, including whether cameras will be allowed in the courtroom at trial. The Idaho Supreme Court in the Associated Press versus the Second Judicial District, with some citations, made clear that even absent a specific rule in Idaho, intervention by the media on a limited basis is appropriate to defend the public's right to access free speech. Here, intervention is particularly appropriate where the court previously sought input from the media coalition regarding cameras in the courtroom, but ultimately reserved the ruling. Quote, given the high-profile nature of this case, the public's interest in watching this happen in the courtroom, and Kohberger's fundamental right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. Those are the issues at hand. Order reserving ruling on the issue of cameras in courtroom at 2. I don't know what at 2 means. Mr. Kohberger asked for this court to remove cameras in the courtroom on the grounds that the media have failed to heed the court's admonishment to, guys, get with this. And we knew this was coming, right? We talked about this already. Not focus strictly on Mr. Kohberger and to show a wide shot of the courtroom if they wish to continue filming the court proceedings live. Motion at 2. Mr. Kohberger's subsequent citations at various media and social media publications do not support his position, however. For example, Mr. Kohberger cites to a Fox News article that describes the court's statement to photographers and camera persons that they should not focus exclusively on Mr. Kohberger. So they've been duly warned or notified. Let's see. You know what? Here, I've got to change my audio situation. I think my headphones are running out of juice. Well, I'm going to keep going for a minute. All right. However, it includes photos of A, Mr. Kohberger and defense counsel Jay Logsden entering the courtroom. I made a short and an intro out of it. B, defense counsel Ann Taylor and Alyssa Mathoff entering the courtroom. C, Latah County prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson in the courtroom. D, the M victims. C, Mr. Kohberger entering the courtroom. And F, a still photo from the video of an Indiana law enforcement stop. Oh, let's see here. Let me just make sure. Can you guys still hear me? I just want to make sure we still have audio. My headphones just switched off. Can you guys hear me? Let's see. Audio good, audio good, audio good. Audio good. Okay, thank you, Angel D. Okay. All right. And E, Mr. Kohberger entering the courtroom. F, a still photo from video of an Indiana law enforcement stop of the vehicle of Mr. Kohberger and his father were in on December 15th, 2022. See Exhibit A attached. In addition, although Mr. Kohberger argues that he is entitled to defend himself against capital charges without cameras focused on his fly. Let me read it again. In addition, although Mr. Kohberger argues that he is entitled to defend himself against capital charges without cameras focused on his fly. Now, those were words that were taken from the motion to have cameras removed in the courtroom. I do not like that personally. This is a death penalty case. And I think some of the, I don't know, call me like, I don't know, uptight or old-fashioned or whatever. I think some of the sarcasm, jokesmanship, and things like that, I don't think they have a place here. 4 young people lost their lives in a brutal, savage, horrific manner, and this young man's life is on the line. Like, WATF, WTAF, that's what I want to say. Not what actual the fuck, what the actual fuck. Seriously, though. Motion at 5. That assertion misstates the role that the courtroom camera coverage played in the X, formerly Twitter, social media post that appears at page 3 of this motion. No photographs or cameras coverage focused on Mr. Kohberger's fly. Rather, one random X user modified a photo showing Mr. Kohberger and a deputy entering the courtroom by cropping it to a very small size, focused on his belt, and adding a reference to Mr. Kohberger's fly. So that's where that came from. It wasn't the actual courtroom cameras focusing on his fly. It was like a YouTuber, TikToker, or Twitter person like doing whatever, you know. Oh God. Anyway, okay. I could go on about that for hours, but anyway. And a broader review of media coalition stories follow this court's June 27, 2023 statement that media coalition participants and other long-term media outlets have followed the court's decision. For example, KTVB story covering at the August 23rd, 2023 hearing showed a variety of camera shots, including A, a broad shot that showed the entire courtroom, both counsel tables and the bench, B, a close-up of the judge, C, a slightly zoomed-in shot of Mr. Kohberger and his counsel, in which the Zoom feed could also be seen, D, still shots of the victims, and E, an interview of a legal analyst. And here is the example here. I love it when there's links. So this is apparently the example of good, I think. Is that how you read it?
Tonight, reactions after Bryan Kohberger and his defense team agreed to push his trial back. The man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students was in a Latah County courtroom for a status hearing this afternoon. And Abby Davis, there's more information about a quick, but it was a very busy hearing today, Abby.
Yeah, well, not only will the trial happen later than originally expected, Kohberger's team also announced 2 more motions they plan on filing.
Sure you want to do this? Absolutely.
Bryan Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial Wednesday afternoon, pushing his trial back indefinitely. Kohberger is accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death last fall. His defense team said during the status hearing they need more time to prepare for a trial, and that an October 2nd start date is too soon.
Our investigation is not complete. Our work as experts is not complete. We haven't completed our review of the state's evidence.
Kohberger's decision didn't surprise former Idaho Attorney General Dave Leroy.
Well, it's fairly predictable that the defense was going to need more time to consider.
Okay, so anyhow, that's an example of
to get their own experts on a lot of this complicated scientific testimony.
Oops, so I lost the document. It's okay. I can open back up document. All right. That was the example of good. We like that. Okay, that's good. We're not focusing on a supply. All right. Okay. And then we go on. And ABC News coverage of Good Morning America in August showed a variety of shots of the courtroom and the defendant with still photos of stock footage of earlier developments in the case. The coverage also, but that's not why you're watching. You're not watching to see stock photos. But anyway, the coverage also provided balanced coverage of the state and Mr. Kohberger's position on the motion before the court. These stories did not focus exclusively on footage or close-ups of Mr. Kohberger. Now, we're going to have an example here. Now, this is the problem I have with this one right here, okay? So we're supposed to be talking about where the camera is, and that the judge explicitly said it's not supposed to be focused right on the defendant. That's what happened in the Vallow Daybell case, and that's why the cameras are out, and it can't happen here. All right, so fine. But this particular example here says the coverage also provided balanced coverage of the state and Mr. Kohberger's position on the motion before the court. So now we're also trying to, from the bench, dictate how the public perceives what is going on and how the media covers what is happening in the courtroom. Are we saying that it must be in a fair and balanced way? Are we communist Russia? Like, seriously, I have a real problem with that. I'm going to read the sentence again. The coverage also provided balanced, and I think this is good, by the way. I like balanced, fair, factual. If you're new to this channel, welcome. You'll get to know me. That's what's up. But this goes too far. The coverage also provided balanced coverage of the state and Mr. Kohberger's position on the motion before the court. Fair according to who? All right. The stories did not focus exclusively on footage or close-ups of Mr. Kohberger. Okay, so that's fair. But that sentence that got snuck in there, Ann Taylor, you're good at this. Not okay. Okay, the page doesn't actually exist. Okay, maybe we crashed it. I don't know. All right. Let's see if we can follow another link. Also there, they provided the Twitter link and additionally the Good Morning America thing. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's a video. So this is another example of good, according to the defense. Yeah.
The man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students appearing in court. Attorneys for Bryan Kohberger making a request to the prosecution and a judge weighing in. ABC's Faith Abube has more on these developments. Good morning, Faith.
Good morning to you, Janae. Loved ones with one of the murder victims were inside that courtroom as defense attorneys tried to cast doubt on the evidence against Bryan Kohberger. In the meantime, though, the suspect himself out of his orange jail jumpsuit, showing very little emotion in that hearing.
Quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger, wearing a tie and a blazer, entering an Idaho courtroom Friday for the first time since June.
All right.
His defense lawyers requesting a pause on the case for more time to review additional evidence and demanding state prosecutors release all details about the investigation into DNA samples they say put Kohberger directly at the crime scene.
They have provided full discovery for the sheet, the DNA found on the night sheet, but not the other 3 unidentified male DNA samples, 2 from within the house, 1 from outside of it.
But prosecutors insist they've already given the defense access to everything they have.
All right, so this is what the defense likes. Again, they like the camera footage, and they also like the fair and balanced coverage, which I think is a general rule is a good thing, but it is not up to the defense to dictate how the public is going to perceive things or how the media is going to cover it. It's also not for a judge to rule from the bench how the civil world is going to handle these things. It's just not, unless we're all brought to court on charges. But guess what? We're not. Stop. It needs to stop. Oh, I just pressed the wrong thing. No worries. I got all hot and bothered there and just clicked the wrong thing. All right. All right. That's where we were. Do y'all see what I'm saying on that? Please, somebody, let me hear an amen. Okay. All right, so that was that. Finally, many of the outlets who seek to intervene have significant experience broadcasting live courtroom proceedings, including both high-profile trials that resulted in both acquittals, Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse, Ohio versus Skylar Richardson, and conviction, South Carolina versus Alec Murdaugh. The camera equipment and operators are experienced and not the large, clunky, numerous camera equipment operators that the Supreme Court expressed. I don't know. I mean, we got some great close-ups of the snot running out of Alec Murdaugh's nose for days. Is that what this judge wants? Concern about... Okay, so there's a typo again here, which is why I can't read it. Concern about in Estes v. State of Texas. In Estes, there were at least 12 camera operators in the courtroom for a pretrial hearing, and the equipment journalists used was noisy, required cables, lying throughout the courtroom, and at trial involved some newsreel-style cameras. The court can take judicial notice that similar equipment is not involved here. Plainly, the Supreme Court's concern in Estes did not require removal of the more modest, less intrusive camera equipment bags used by the reporters in this case. Hold up, wait a minute, time out. Did anyone see the footage, or did you watch the feed from, I'm not sure which outlet it was from, but the whole time you just heard, I was like really loud typing. I mean, I thought you could hear like the typing over the people talking. And I mean, this went on for hours. It was like a joke. Do these people know what they're doing? Anyway. Accordingly, the media coalition seeks to intervene for the limited purpose of opposing Mr. Kohberger's motion to remove cameras from the courtroom and make full argument and briefing on this issue. I'm sorry, you know those examples that we just looked at? I was reading it the wrong way, so I'm going to need to correct myself here. That was the media coalition, I believe now, putting forth examples of what they did that they thought was good. So that gives me a whole new read on it. Let me know what you think. I may have read that wrong the first time around, but you know what? Hey, I'm human and sometimes I do that. Okay, so here is Exhibit A, and this is Mr. Kohberger Mr. Kohberger, not Mr. Kohberger, I'm getting tired. Bryan Kohberger, judge, issues warning to media at start of hearing on Idaho student M's. Quadruple stabbing suspect Bryan Kohberger defense asked the court to compel more disclosure in a hearing on a series of key discovery requests in the University of Idaho student murders. Kohberger entered the courtroom just after 4:30 p.m. wearing a black suit and tie as he did his last appearance, in stark contrast with the orange jail jumpsuit he wore to the first several hearings. The 28-year-old criminologist accused of butchering 4 undergrads in the 4 a.m. slashing. I'm just going to read it for what it says. YouTube, really? Come on. Like, it is almost like makes a mockery of this case to not be able to say things like murdered. So, you know what? I'm just going to say, YouTube, we need to sit down and have a talk. Pull up a seat. What do you like in your coffee? Oh, you'd rather have a chai latte? I have that for you. Have a seat. I have things to say. In stark contrast with the orange jail jumpsuit he wore the first several hearings, a 20-year-old criminologist accused of butchering 4 undergrads in the 4 a.m. slashing on November 13, 2022 is seeking several pieces of evidence that prosecutors have not turned over to the defense. However, before addressing the motions, District Judge John Judge clarified some questions regarding his revised gag order in the case and warned the media that he could revoke permission to allow cameras in the courtroom. Stop on the rest of you. Lawyer expects Bryan Kohberger prosecutors to be very aggressive, seeking DP for Idaho suspect. Bryan Kohberger enters in the courtroom during a hearing Tuesday at the Latah County courthouse in Moscow. Judge referenced in the recent Chad Daybell trial when cameras were asked to leave because they focused too much on the defendant. He said cameras in Moscow needed to show a wide shot of the courtroom and not focus strictly on Kohberger if they are to remain throughout the rest of the proceedings. Ann Taylor enters in the courtroom hearing on Tuesday for Latah County Courthouse in Moscow. The material Kohberger's defense is seeking include training records for 3 investigators, phone records, and information on why FBI expanded the range and model years of the white Hyundai Elantra they were looking for in connection with the case. Kohberger's car initially fell outside the range police were publicly trying to track down, but his shares a similar appearance. Well, I mean, that is just like old as time, like police technique. Crews enter University of Students' home, slated for demolition after quadruple stabbings. Bill Thompson walks through the courtroom before a hearing Tuesday at the Latah County Courthouse in Moscow. Latah County prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson countered that records for the officers are only required to be turned over if his office plans to rely on them to testify at trial. That's a load of BS, which he said he wouldn't. You know, I love how Bill is like, hey, listen, you know, there's this information. It's material to the case. It might even be evidence, but I'm not planning on using it. So I just boxed it up and I put it over there in the corner. In fact, it's under next year's Christmas tree. I mean, 5 years down the road, somewhere you're never going to find it. Like, when did that become a thing? Frustration. Madison Mogan, top left. Aw, sweet girls and boy. Top left, smiles on the shoulders of her best friend, Kelly Gonsalves, as they pose with Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, and 2 other housemates in the Gonsalves' final Instagram post, shared the day before the 4 students were stabbed to death. Kohberger's defense is also asking for the court to compel prosecutors to turn over additional discovery materials and information on genetic genealogy techniques. So we know all this stuff. I'm not going to keep reading these articles. Yeah. So these are just exhibits that they included that were examples of their excellent work, according to them. All right. And then finally, we just have the, let me present it here. Is it? I think it is. The order regarding the notice of the hearing, the Zoom information. So remember, the defense wanted a continuance of the September 1st court date, saying it was too soon. So here's a little more on this topic, essentially. The court is mindful that limited courtroom capacity and potential travel restrictions may interfere with the victims' and the defendants' families' ability to observe the court proceedings in this case on September 1st, 2023 at 1 p.m. Pacific. Therefore, in the event they are unable to prefer not to attend the proceeding in person, the court finds it necessary to make the court proceeding available via Zoom for the victims and the defendant's immediately family members under the following restrictions. And that is going to leak like a mofo. How can it not? But anyway, it is hereby ordered, 1, the victims and the defendant's immediate family members may observe the court proceedings in person or via Zoom. And smartly, the meeting ID and passcode are redacted. 2, the Zoom information shall not be disseminated to anyone other than the victims and defendant's immediate family members. 3, any recording or live streaming of the proceeding is prohibited. But anyone who could get their hands on it would stream it. I'm not just talking like YouTube channels, like anybody who's interested in the case. That's what we got for court documents. Damn, has it already been an hour and a half? Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mrs. B. I'm so sorry. Gosh, sending you my love. That's terrible. I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope that you're doing okay and that you think of your daughter fondly. Thank you. I just get frustrated with the case too. Mike points out it's a supermoon, the second full moon in the calendar month. Yeah, and apparently my son was telling me there's something else that's special about this moon, that it's not supposed to be around until like 2037, or did he just make that up in his 15-year-old mind? Let's see. Boomer Girl, welcome Boomer Girl. Hi, I've seen you been chatting. It says, if Court TV would film it from the front of the courtroom like they did in the Depp Heard trial, they wouldn't have issues. They did do a lot of, oh yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Yeah. Oh, hey, Angel D. Thank you so much for the super chat. Because you said, oh, yeah, thank you. I did it. I said the bad words. I don't know what to tell you, YouTube. It really does. It almost to me makes a mockery out of this horrible, very serious tragedy to have to make, use these little play kitty words of terrible things. I don't like it. I don't think it's like, what's the point? So your kid doesn't walk in the room and hear murder, but they hear, that killing thingy. I just don't. I thought about this a lot because I have to figure how I want to proceed with my own channel, my own ethics, and like what I want to be putting out there, and it makes no sense. Yeah, thank you for the amen, sisters, maybe brothers. All right. Next on tap, because I wasn't planning for those documents. Is there anything that anybody wants to say about the documents? Again, I will put the link up if anyone does want to come up. You guys are all being so shy. What's up with this? This is not like my normal crew. But it's okay. You guys can, it's all right. I can do all the talking. As you know, I can talk a lot. All right. So something I always want to know, and I know DC Primetime wants to know about this as well. Oh, it's mine. Oh, this is a video you're going to watch after the live stream. Oh, I always want to know, and I know DC Primetime does as well, is what does Nancy Grace have to say about this? I don't feel complete until I know what Nancy has to say about many things. Look at her there. Silly look on your face, Nancy. Oh, I don't think I could ever capture the moment again. That was awesome. So many silly looks on her face. Okay.
Bryan Kohberger. What will happen when he once again is face to face with a judge? Will victims' families show up? Many important details leading up to this moment. We now know that Kohberger's lawyer, Ann Taylor, has waived her right to a speedy trial. After all this whining and moaning and complaining about a speedy trial demand, and now they waive it? It was all...
I'm sorry, just let me ask this question. I saw someone ask this, or a couple people asked this, or I just want to get it answered. Hi, Storm Spotter. How are you? What is the status of the document Ann was going to file about the FBI and Gabby Vargas? So the reason that law enforcement, how did they word it? Hold it. Find it. Okay. So let me just share this with you really quick. Then we'll go back to Nance, because Nance, we always want to know what you think. So this is the last page of the 24 pages of the notice of intent not to cross-examine the defense witness, and it just says this. So this is under seal with the court. Exhibit B. And Exhibit B is attached to the state's notice of their intention to not cross-examine the defense witnesses, including Gabby Vargas and the other three. Also a district court decision, and also the records to explain why there was witness contact with Gabriela Vargas. Oops. And if I don't have the other relevant document up, I'm not going to try to grab it. Okay, here, it's fine. And then the reasons that they want that sealed, those records, those items that I just mentioned to remain sealed is this. Witness contact herein. Okay, let me read the full sentence. The state of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, and hereby moves the court pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule, yada, 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 for a temporary order sealing Exhibit B of the state's notice of intent not to cross-examine the defense witnesses, a district court decision, and the records to explain why the witness contact by the two FBI agents herein, because release or disclosure would 1, interfere with enforcement proceedings. 2, deprive a person of a right to a fair trial or an impartial adjudication. And then we have another number 2. So we've got 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Hate that. The second 2 says constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. 3, disclose the identity of a confidential source, and or 4, disclose investigative techniques and procedures. Therefore, the reason the FBI agents visited Gabriela Vargas will remain under seal. That is now an order. Like it or not. I don't like it.
It was all just a ruse. This as they contest DNA, and they are questioning 3 unknown male DNAs found at the scene of this home where multiple co-eds had lived. People were in and out all the time. It was a real party house. That could have been anybody. So I'm trying to figure out which way the defense is headed, because I guarantee you they're going to claim that they had to waive a right to a speedy trial because they didn't have enough time to review the state's DNA evidence. BS. That's total BS. The state has said, and this can be confirmed, that the crime lab hasn't finished all the DNA analysis. So how can they turn over what they don't have? I'm Nancy Grace. Thanks for being with us. Joining me right now, 2 special guests that are intimately familiar with the legal aspects and the factual aspects of the Kohberger prosecution. Dale Carson is joining me, high-profile lawyer out of Jacksonville, former FBI agent, former cop in Miami-Dade, author of Arrest Proof Yourself. You can find him at dalecarsonlaw.com. He's been studying the legal angles since this first broke. And I mean, when the murders occurred, he's been on the case. Also with me, Chris McDonough. You know him well. He is the director of the Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective with around 300 homicides under his belt. 25 years in law enforcement. I found him on the YouTube channel, The Interview Room, when he was doing a very slow drive-through all around the King Road murder scene. That's when I found Chris McDonough. Dale Carson, Chris McDonough, thank you for being with us. First of all, Dale Carson, how many times have defense attorneys filed, including you, filed speedy trial demands when you, no more than the man in the moon, intend to take the case to trial within 6 months? Total BS.
Well, it absolutely is. But the reason, ostensibly, is that the defense hasn't had an opportunity to fully prepare for the case, as the prosecution already has. The prosecution has all the evidence, right? But it's interesting.
No. I hate to interrupt you in the first 2 minutes, but no. The state has handed over all the evidence. It's not like they're hoarding it or hiding it. And let me tell you a story. I almost said a funny story, but it wasn't funny to me, Dale. And Chris, you know only too well from being on the stand. I was preparing a death penalty case where infants, several infants in their baby beds were killed because of a rival, it was called SET, S-E-T, SET gang. All right. What this means is that the women that were the girlfriends of the gang members got into an argument with the women that were girlfriends of the other gang members. I seem to recall over some clothes. Yeah. So one gang throws a Molotov cocktail into the home of the victims and says, let's fry them babies. And they did. The babies were burned to death instantly.
Well, oh shit, now that you just said that on YouTube, we're gonna have all kinds of problems. But I mean, how horrible. I'm not gonna go any further at that point. Let's listen to Nancy telling a horrible story.
Yeah. Now, that's not a death penalty case. I don't know what it is. But my point is, leading up to it, is that the defense kept saying, and the trial, there was no speedy trial demand. This trial was long down the road. I'm talking at least another year. They said I did not hand over a file. And I said, I've given you every single thing I've got. So I finally handed my whole file, everything I had, to the judge. Guess what it was? They were right. And I was right. There was one thin file that the homicide cops, for whatever reason, inadvertently, I don't know, had not given to me. So there was a stack of, I think, about 20 pages the defense didn't have, and I didn't have. So I remember taking the stand and saying, I've handed over everything I've got. It went that far. I actually had to take the stand. And then we found out where the missing pages were. And that was a real blow to me, to be accused of withholding information. I want to win, but I want to win fair and square. I want the right people behind bars, and I want to win the fair way, because to me,
guys, and she's going to talk about her reason. I think she has maybe higher ethics, or she claims she does, or I believe that she does, than perhaps some lawyers. But I think that most attorneys are going to have the same view, if not for the righteous, moral, and ethical reasons, because they want to keep in good graces with the American Bar Association or whoever their licensing body is, generally that. If you step out of the bounds she's just talking about there, you can lose that license right quick. and after all the time, money, effort, and salary you've gotten used to have gone into being a lawyer, you don't want to lose all that.
Prosecutors have the duty not only to seek justice, but to do it ethically. The defense is not bound by that. So when you say, Del Carson, well, the state's got it, they've had it all this time. I don't know that they've had it all this time. There's still DNA results the state doesn't have.
Well, they collected it, and it's an opportunity for the defense
You mean
to review
the cops collected it and handed in the evidence? The prosecutors did not collect any evidence.
Well, no, not directly. Not directly.
That's
But what
right.
I was going to tell you, Nancy, is that, look, in a case like this where the defense has not entered a plea, the court enters a plea for the defense. And what that means is there's no reciprocity. The government has to turn over everything it's got, but the defendant does not. So that's an interesting nuance to what's going on here.
Well, let's talk about that for just one moment. And Chris McDonough, you got to hear this. Because one thing the defense does have to hand over is notice of alibi. Because in our jurisprudence system, which was brought over from the common law of Great Britain, it's not trial by ambush. Forever, the state has to hand over the evidence to the defense. Not always true the other way around. The defense doesn't always have to hand over everything to the state. But if there's an alibi, the defense does have to hand that over. So the state has a right to investigate it, to find out if it's a big fat lie. So get this, Chris McDonough. Bryan Kohberger's defense hands over an alibi, but they won't say what the alibi is. All they say is he likes to go driving around late at night alone. If that's not pervy enough,
Seriously.
what, looking in everybody's windows? How many times did he drive by the King Road murder scene that night, according to his cell phone, or in the past, according to his cell phone? Conveniently that night, I think he had a cell phone on airplane mode or turned off at the time of the murders, but then it was quickly turned back on for his circuitous route home. What kind of an alibi is that, Chris McDonough? Speaking of having to hand over evidence.
I feel like Nancy Grace just speaketh my mind. Usually, not always, but like in issues like this.
That you like to drive around late at night by yourself?
Well, and Nancy, you've been on this from day one in terms of really inside this guy's head and then the defense's positioning here. That alibi in of itself is going to be very problematic for them because I think if we just apply common.
Wait a minute, I just got to say, and then I can rewind here, but Amy Terry says the whole alibi thing, there's something fishy there, not the alibi itself, but there is a game there. Does anyone else wonder if he turned his phone off ever before the 13th? Well, that is certainly a behavioral pattern that we are going to need to know about. And I know that the FBI casting was able to determine that, and it is going to come out in trial. But I do need to say, this calling that Mr. Kohberger likes to go on drives late at night by himself, but not at 1122 King Road. That is not an alibi. That is a description of a behavioral habit, says the behavioral therapist here. It is not an alibi. An alibi is concrete. It has a time frame. It has a location. Ideally, it's going to have witnesses. It's going to be corroborated, and it's a fucking alibi. I like to go driving late at night, just around the area in the countryside, but not at 122 King Road. That is a behavioral habit, or just an event. It's not even an event. It's not an alibi. It's just driving me crazy that why are we not looking at this case and talking about these legal terms like alibi and some other ones that we have mentioned here, and it's getting late, so I can't even remember them, in normal terms. This whole case is handled with, I don't know if it's kid gloves or like Edward Scissorhand gloves, or I don't know what it is, but it ain't normal.
Common sense. the fact that
Let
he
me go back
now,
here so we could hear what he's
presents
saying.
in terms of really inside this guy.
The King Road murder scene that night, according to his cell phone, or in the past, according to his cell phone. Conveniently that night, I think he had a cell phone on airplane mode or turned off at the time of the murders, but then it was quickly turned back on for his circuitous route home. What kind of an alibi is that, Chris McDonough? Speaking of having to hand over evidence, that you like to drive around late at night by yourself?
Well, and Nancy, you've been on this from day one in terms of really inside this guy's head and then the defense's positioning here. That alibi in of itself is going to be very problematic for them, because I think if we just apply common sense, the fact that he now, presents this alibi of, well, he's just out for a nightly stroll in his car. Of course we all do that, right? At 3 o'clock in the morning, and he just happened to be driving by that house 12 separate times, which
I tell you what, if my husband
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch got up out of the bed and went for a drive by himself at 3 a.m.
Oh my God! Since we're saying all the bad things, she would cut his balls right off and throw them out the window while she was driving a car fast in the countryside, maybe in the Lewis and Clarkson River Valley where Bryan Kohberger drove. We all know what you would do to your husband, honey. We know.
I think my head would blow off.
I agree.
Because if I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start feeding guinea pigs and cats and dogs and grandmommies and twins and get everybody to school, N-O. He is not going for a drive at 3 a.m. and breathing in the fresh air. No. Go ahead. I mean, do you go driving in the middle of the night, Chris McDonough? Because I'm sure your wife would like to hear about that. Do you?
Yeah, my wife would kill me.
What about it, Carson? You go driving around at 3 a.m. in the morning? What, to get some nice freezing fresh air?
Well, that's a strange alibi, because it's not really an alibi.
Yes,
all he's saying is, I don't really know where I was.
Yes. Thank you.
Which is not an alibi.
I mean, Chris McDonough, you drove those. Yeah, you're right. An alibi is, I was here at this time and these are the witnesses.
I already said that weeks ago, people. Weeks ago.
So it's total BS. And Chris McDonough,
I'm sorry. I don't normally say that. Like, I said that, but I actually really don't like it when creators do that. But it's been driving me nuts that everybody is treating his statement of behavior like an alibi, because it is not.
You and I have gone to the scene many, many times. It's freezing cold. The roads are treacherous. Their home was up on an elevated slant and very tricky. The streets leading up to their home, the apartments, all the student apartments, it's barely two cars can cross, and they're going up these slick streets covered in ice. So why is he driving around in sub-zero temps at 3 o'clock in the morning on a treacherous road?
And to dovetail into what you're thinking, Nancy, the only thing I can think, and this is, obviously just my opinion, is either A, they're going to come up with some type of medical insomnia, connection through the snow problem.
Hold on, I got to write this down. Hold on, I can see it coming. That
okay.
Okay, now what did you say? Insomnia and what?
And they're going to connect it back to his condition. Is the snow, problem that he was having, a medical condition there, and of course, that opens up the timeline for the earlier videos that have been floating around, about an hour before what the authorities have said they believe is the exact time the homicides go down.
So he's out driving. Guys, I feel a little bit guilty because I've recounted this story. They're going to sleep in here because they know what I'm about to say. Oh, here she goes again. But when I drove that route, I swear, and you can ask, I think I had Kelly with me. Illy,
that was me.
I don't know if you were with me or not. The night we drove that route that he took you couldn't see a thing. When a semi would come toward me, I would have to just pull off the road because I could not see anything. And I've got 2020 and 2018, and it was so dark. All I could see were big lights coming straight at the car. So I just pull off and wait. And I'm usually a much more aggressive driver. That said, there was visual snow. It was snowing, and he's out riding around. Oh, how I would love, there's no way he's going to take the stand, but I would love to cross-examine whoever is going to say that on the stand. Chris, did I interrupt you or did I interrupt Dale Carson? It's their fault.
You're fine, Nancy. And you know, we're always honored to be here as your guest, and you are so right on target here. One of the things I've been thinking about, you know, knowing that both you and I have driven it, and this idea of, okay, why are they going so far to say in the motion that, well, we'll figure out this alibi on the state's witnesses through questioning, right? Well, I'm thinking, well, how does that come to play here? And the only thing I can think of is this medical condition, but I could be 100% wrong. However, that
wait. Are you talking about insomnia? Because the perfect cure for insomnia, you can't go to sleep, is to go out in the sub-zero cold temps with your windows down and the snow. That's supposed to get you sleepy?
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going in my head. But that in of itself, if you take...
Dude, he's like straight up losing his shizzle. Like, what is he talking about? I used to like it. I'm just not a fan anymore. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Sorry, guys. Sorry to subject you.
That night, for an example, all the activity, you know, just hours before this tragedy goes down, there are kids everywhere from the college. I mean, we know about the police contact with the alcohol and that, and then there's these videos that have surfaced where they're showing the cars, you know, various cars pulling up, and some people believing that's them. The authorities haven't released that yet. But what that does is it opens up a narrative, and you know this more than anybody, for the defense to start saying some other dude.
Oh,
some other
the
guy.
sod defense, some other dude did it. Oh.
Yep. And then they create their theme around it. And they start projecting it into the public through these motions and see what sticks. I think that's what's been going on here. And you've been on top of this, you know, from the beginning. We've talked about this.
Dale Carson, Chris McDonough and I are dragging you by your toenails. You can bring your wife. Just bring everybody, the cat, the dog, everybody. You've got to go out there and you've got to wait like we did around midnight and take that route that he took about Sid, wasn't it a 45 minute?
What did your husband think about you driving around with another man in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, Nancy? You better hope he doesn't have something sharp in his hands. Did she just freak out about that?
Route.
I don't think they were really together though.
From the murder scene to his apartment, and it's actually about a 9 to 12 minute drive. He was out on this long, circuitous route, getting himself as far away from the murder scene as possible. Home. It was like his house, his apartment in Pullman is here. The murder scene is here. So he goes all the way around in the dark, no street lights, to right here, instead of going, boop. That's what happened. Now, right there, a jury is going to say, no way. But now we've got
exactly right. That's exactly right, Nancy. A jury is going to begin with this case with him surveilling in some way or another that house where these young gals live. And then they're going to bring it right up to the very end where that sheath for the knife is found with his DNA on it. And a reasonable jury is going to find him guilty, clearly. They want to postpone this trial as long as they can in order for the hubbub, if you will, to die down, which it's not gonna, because this is such a massive killing in a rural area. There are 44 counties in Idaho. They don't even have a public defender's office per se. What they do is they engage the services of attorneys who are in the areas because it's so rural and there are different rules for every one of those counties. So they don't.
What are you talking about? Jurisdictions? No shit. What is he talking about? I wish I could just like block out Please.
Don't have to have depositions,
Dale.
or they can.
Dale, before you
Dale,
go off
shut
on
up.
depositions, isn't it true they never planned to try this case within the speedy trial period at all?
No.
This was just a
No, that's
ruse
true. Of course not.
to drive the state crazy. Because I can tell you this much, Dale, and I don't know if this happened to you, Chris, when you would be a witness on the stand as a homicide detective, but I don't care if it was a shoplifting. I don't care if it's a theft by receiving. If somebody hit me with a speedy, they're going out first. I mean, Monday morning, as quickly as I can put that case together. And then when I do get a conviction, I'm lucky enough to get a conviction, then they're getting the max. Because
Well, but look, but speedy trial issue, at least from the defense side, is this. You set it for speedy trial when you know the state has to change its behavior in order to give you a reduced sentence. That was never going to happen in this.
Y'all in chat, love you so much. Mike says, I have a feeling that the CAS expert will be the most important piece of evidence after the DNA, hoping that the 180 pixel ring cams align perfectly with his analysis. Well, I gotta say, the one camera from 1112 King Road it has a pretty good resolution compared to most that we've seen. But yes, the cat. I'm so glad we are all agreeing now. I think we should sing Kumbaya. The CAS expert is going to be the linchpin, the juggernaut, the nail in the Kohberger gym locker. 400% sure. And I do apologize if you're not on the same Kumbaya page. It might be because I never put up part 2 of the phone data and CAS FBI video that I was planning to put out because there's just so much information. But I'm going to try to do that before I go back to work in 5 days from now. Hold me to it. It's important stuff.
This case. And so when you request speedy, the government knows that you think your client is provably innocent. And that's never been the case here. So you know it was a tool.
it's just a way to screw with the state. They never intended this. And the outcome is, if the state didn't try it on time, there would be an automatic acquittal and there is no retrial. Jeopardy attaches.
Yeah, but if the jury panel's not sworn in, jeopardy doesn't attach.
Guys, I was just handed this. It's highly complicated and it's very tech oriented. It's perfect. Sydney drew this. Okay, 10 minutes. I love holding up any type of a visual. Apartment to house, as I mentioned earlier. I thought it was 9. It's 10 minutes from the apartment to the house. But the route he took that night is from the house, 20 minutes this way, 20 minutes that way, and 20 minutes. It wasn't 45. Sydney, you're right. It was more like an hour. He goes for an hour drive. And how is he going to explain that to a jury? I mean, that just starts with it. Now, okay, let's talk about what's going to happen on Wednesday. And again, Chris McDonough, Dale, please jump in.
Hey, Nancy, can we
Yes.
just go back just for a second on the drive?
Yes.
Didn't he show up that morning as well?
Yes.
Wasn't there evidence that they believed he potentially went back? And there was reports of his vehicle in the area that morning?
That's right. He went back, and it reminds me of Scott Peterson going back after he murdered Lacey, his wife, and unborn child Connor. We go back and look out over the San Francisco Bay and just look at it, because there was a GPS tracker on his car. So we know he went back over and over to look out there. What was he looking to see if her body was going to pop up? But that's really common amongst defendants, is they go back to the scene to just see what's going on.
They want to relive it. Kidding me? That's part of their conduct, typically.
Right. So how is this going to play into the...
Bundy did that. All of the major serial killers have done that. And although we don't know that he is a serial in the sense of having clearly killed other people previously, we do know that with a quad murder, he certainly is a serial killer. And he has all of the, well, think about it. He is so into law enforcement that he tries to be a police officer. He tries to be a really well-known, if you will, graduate student in criminal justice. I mean, what other indications are there that somebody's just involved terribly in law enforcement, yet he can't get into it? Thank God.
You know, Jackie, great minds think alike. I was just going to ask our two guests, what do you make? And there hasn't been a lot of discussion about this at all because everyone is focused on the challenge to the DNA on the knife sheath. And one thing I want to point out, and I think you and I, the three of us have talked about this maybe off camera. They've got to have a way to fight that DNA. It's his DNA on the knife sheath that he left under the body of Maddie Mogan. His DNA, we believe, is on the buckle, the snap of that knife sheath. Now, they've got to come up with a way. They're either going to say the DNA science is flawed, that his DNA was there incidentally or accidentally. Maybe he went to a gun and knife show and opened up that knife and left his DNA. Or he can claim it was planted. But think about it. The knife sheath was collected from under Maddie's body before Bryan Kohberger became a suspect.
Long before.
What I mean by that is significance. The knife sheath was taken and handed over to the crime lab, to the scientists, to try to find DNA or fingerprints. And it was only weeks and weeks later that Bryan Kohberger was identified. So how could they have planted the DNA? And it's very likely that some of the cops in there processing the scene had on a shoulder cam or body cam. So there may even be video of when the knife sheath was found.
I heard that there is, and I think that there is. Some of you guys are commenting on, I hate to even bring it up or give her a moment, but I saw Angel D said something about it, and Mike says, WSU, Karen, okay, couldn't say her name, is MIA. Well, that's really strange since, you know, the reason that she gave me and lots of other people for being on all of these YouTube channels like Psychonically 24/7, so she could single-handedly keep this case in the public eye because she was so afraid that people were going to stop paying attention to it. Oh my Lord, good riddance.
So just follow this through to its logical conclusion. That means that someone would have to, after Kohberger is named as a suspect, get his DNA, not his father's DNA, but his DNA, and go to the crime lab, get in to where they're holding all the evidence, probably get someone to conspire with them and plant his DNA, Kohberger's DNA, on the knife sheath. That's
Nancy,
what would have to happen. What?
That narrative is why you were a good prosecutor, because that's exactly what the prosecutor is going to tell the jury.
I mean, yeah, people love to hear about, oh, the evidence was planted, but think about what it would have required to plant his, Kohberger's DNA on that snap, on that sheath. That did not happen. Okay, so they got to fall back on the other three attacks on the DNA. But Jackie was holding up a sign, and I agree. Because we're all focusing on the DNA and the unknown male DNA that was found somewhere in the house. I don't know. Was it the kitchen? Was it on a doorknob? Was it in a bathroom? Where was it? Don't know. But they haven't been able to match that other DNA to a single person. And we don't know of any male DNA that was in the girls' bedrooms. That said, no one's been talking about the fact that Kohberger is fighting tooth and nail to keep cameras out of the courtroom. To you, Chris McDonough, why do you think Kohberger doesn't want a camera in the courtroom?
Well, I think for him, it quite frankly, I think it's more about his attorneys than it is for him. I think he probably wants them in there, but
because they're not of the same agenda. I don't know. Whatever you think of Nancy Grace, she's the only one making sense here this evening. 0 for the men. Ding, ding, ding. All points for the lady.
The attorneys don't want them in there because they know that the public will see what he is about through his body language, not only how he reacts. I mean, I can only imagine when you would ask questions to a witness to watch the defendant's reaction. Juries pay attention to that very closely, as we all know. And just to jump real fast back to the DNA gap, i.e., somebody planted it, i.e., law enforcement and or the government. But it also, if we were to try to think through this a little bit deeper with some other dude theory, then they would have to find somebody that had a direct correlated link to Kohberger, somehow put that sheath in his hand during that time of that relationship. And then, of course, that individual would be the suspect who planted it up into that bedroom. And what's interesting here is the fact that it's in the bedroom. And that is a very personal approach. And Kohberger would be the most logical individual through his personality type and through, obviously, all of the forensic diagnosis of this guy on a psychological. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Remember, following on that, remember they were killed with a knife, a sheath knife, probably.
Yeah, and it's a very personal instrument, right, Del?
Guys,
Right.
again, Sydney and Jackie are waving frantically.
It's like, yeah, again, you're saying ridiculous, obvious, dumb shizzle. Like, I don't know what these guys are talking about tonight.
At me, and they're right again. There is Kohberger's, and the state has this, purchase of the knife, a knife, and a sheath.
Yep.
Exactly like the sheath that was found that goes with the knife 7 months before the murders. He buys a knife and a sheath, and it looks just like the sheath found there with the matching knife. The knife has never been recovered. So my question would be, so where's that knife and that knife sheath? If this isn't it, then where is it?
Right. Good one, Ann.
Exactly. And that's a very high bar that they're going to have to try to get over. Just that piece alone.
Hey, listen to this, guys. The defense says, I bet they don't. They do not like cameras exclusively looking at their client. And I just want to remind everybody of something. And we went round and round about this when I took a job at Court TV with the late, great Johnny Cochran. God rest his soul.
Yeah, Nancy, if you got some ends with Court TV, you better tell the cameraman to lay off Bryan Kohberger's fly and his face because he's going to ruin it for us all.
I didn't agree with a thing he ever said, but man, he could win a case. Juries love him, and I can see why. Just, that kind of person, they walk in the room and everybody wants to be with them. He's just, charismatic. Always, with every case, the defense did not want cameras in the courtroom. Well, the majority of the cases. Why? And why did Court TV think there should be cameras in the courtroom? In our Constitution, the Founding Fathers, there's something called the minutes. The minutes.
Wait a minute. I need to find some Star Spangled Banner to play in the background while she's talking here because I think I'm about to love it.
Or what's being said, say, on the floor, in the room, when statutes are being passed. And our Constitution calls for open courtrooms. And in the minutes, the Founding Fathers said, we want the courthouses to be as big as it takes for the whole community to watch a trial. We are not Russia. We are not China, where proceedings happen in secret. We're not being run by the Taliban, who are jury, judge, and executioner. Our proceedings are in the open. And in our world, that means we all see justice unfold. Here, where Dale Carson is, where Chris McDonough is, we can watch justice unfold. That's what the Founding Fathers said. And if the defense doesn't like it, well, they shouldn't have done the crime.
Well, listen, when you look at Bryan Kohberger's photographs lately, he's been smiling. Now, what person charged with a quadruple homicide would be smiling in any event during the course of any court appearance? You'd be absolutely mortified, but not Bryan Kohberger. Why is that? And that's a question for the psychologists. But I suspect it's because
I've got his personality
he's enjoying
profile.
himself.
Yeah, and I asked the psychologist that same question, Dale, and his answer was because he's the punisher.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Guys,
wants to
we have our eyes on the courtroom as these proceedings go forward, and we pray for justice. Dale Carson, high-profile lawyer, joining me out of Jacksonville, former FBI, former cop, director of Cold Case Foundation of YouTube's. You know, we're laughing at certain points, but I can tell you some people that aren't laughing. The families of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, aka Maddie, and Kelly Gonzalez, because they will never be at home for another Christmas, another party, another birthday, another Mother's Day. It's all over. They are never to be seen on this earth again. And their killer must be brought to justice. Goodbye, friend.
Amen, Sister Nancy.
Guys, thank you for watching Crime Online with Nancy Grace here on YouTube. To get
Well, she said it. Double R says you guys need to remember Kaylee's sister had to access the front door camera. Now, do remember, she literally did that like within the first 48 hours of this tragedy happening. Now, certainly it can be argued that law enforcement should have been able to do that within the first 48 hours of this happening. But think about it like this. Kaylee's sister was concerned with one narrow circumstance. Exactly what happened to her sister that night. Whereas, and I'm not trying to make excuses for law enforcement doing shoddy work or anything like that, but I'm just trying to think of it like with an open mind. Whereas, you know, law enforcement is looking at the whole picture. They're trying to get every camera, every lead. They're thinking about all the victims. They're thinking about the entirety of the circumstance. And at that time, it seemed like a needle in a haystack of who the suspect could be. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say that. But I mean, it's a good point. I just wanted to say that there's this kind of counterbalance to that too. Yeah, she is the one that told the cops what time they entered the door. Yeah, it was at 1:56. Yep, that's right. And let's see. Yeah. Oh, I may have made a short video about that. I think it's an appropriate time to world, or at least the true crime community wonders if the prosecution for the case against Bryan Kohberger have something solid against him that is going to prove beyond a shadow of all reasonable doubt to the jury of his peers that he is guilty or not of the crimes that he is accused of. We wonder if that solid evidence does in fact exist. And if it does, what would it be? It certainly could be something like security camera footage placing Bryan Kohberger at the scene of the crime, walking into the residence or leaving the residence. Does that security camera footage exist? As we ask this question, we might get some hints from what Kelly Gonzalez's sister Olivia has had to say. As many of you know, she has been a super sister and a super sleuth herself, as she has found so many details regarding Kaylee's tragic death and the death of Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle as well. We thank Olivia for all that she's done, and we hope that the family can eventually find peace. Let's listen to a few excerpts over time of Olivia Gonsalves speaking about what they did or did not know about this terrible crime and how they found out this information related to possible ring camera or security camera footage.
My name is Christy Gonsalves, Kristigonsalves.
Yeah, I'm Olivia Stevenson, ALIVEASTEVENSON. Gonsalves is my maiden name. I'm married.
Everybody good?
Which one?
You.
Oh, you got to get it right. Don't get mine.
I think we got it on the pickup. Good. Okay, so just first off, the map that just came out from police, it gives a little bit of a timeline of where they may have been that night. Does that map mesh up with the timeline that you've been putting together?
Yeah, I'd say it's very close. I'd say if you have any closer details to kind of hone in, 145 could be very vague. Maybe it's closer to 150. Let us know if you have anything concrete, because right now concrete's what we can go off.
So you heard Kelly's sister right there. Concrete is what we can go off of, and she did a very good job of finding concrete information. So we know that what she is looking for, what she is going to verify that timeline by, is going to be concrete information. What could be more concrete than video footage of actually seeing what was going on in real time at the actual moment in question?
In terms of the details, you said it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Does that frustrate you that it's close?
I do, but right now we're still trusting authorities that, it's not going to be 20 minutes here or 15 minutes here that's breaking this. But yeah, I implore everyone, if they know something different, bring it to the police, because if they want to tighten up that timeline, we stand with that.
It seems like there's this very big gap when it comes to Ethan and Xana. Do you know where they might have been?
I don't, unfortunately. I know nothing about them.
We know we have no idea where they were, but we do have a pretty tight timeline on Kaylee and Maddie, and it is close to what they are posting, but it is a difference, and that difference actually could be huge. I mean, it could be, it could not be, but 145, 159. So there is, and we have corroborated with my phone records, Keely's phone records, the driver that was driving them around.
So you
really
have,
concrete.
You have pulled video seeing the Uber driver dropping them off.
Yes.
You've checked your...
It's not an Uber driver. It's a pledging fraternity student.
Phone records.
Yeah.
Timestamps, what time they got home.
Yeah.
So just in case you were sleeping there, let's hear that again.
So you
really
have
concrete.
You have pulled video seeing the Uber driver dropping them off.
Yes.
You've checked your phone records.
Yes.
Timestamps what time they got home.
Your family's been frustrated with the investigation so far, understandably so. Here we are a week and a half out, and really not much information about this. Does not appear to be a suspect. Tell me, Olivia, what specifically you've been frustrated with, because you did your own work here. For instance, you found video of the food truck, for example, where two of the victims were seen the same night as this killing.
Yeah, I would say, I think that obviously this is extremely personal for us, and we treated it that way from the very get-go. I know how valuable those first 48, 72 hours are. And I can only hope that the police also know how valuable that is, and that they have a lot of information there that just isn't public right now. I will say the one lingering frustration I have is the timeline. I know it's semantics, but my sisters got home at 1:56. It wasn't 1:45. I know it might not seem significant, but when we're looking for camera, when we're looking for dash footage, when we're looking for any of those things, I do feel it is valuable, and they did get home at 1:56. It was not 1:45.
Olivia's absolute confidence that Kaylee and Maddie arrived back home at 1:56 did not simply come from adding up the time it would take to call a ride, get the ride from the grub truck to their house, walk from the car into the house. Remember, she said concrete is what we are going to go off of. So her confidence in the fact that they arrived home at 1:56 tells us that she has seen something concrete that lets her know they got home at 1:56. If there was some kind of security camera or ring camera footage that was close enough to the entrance of the residence that allowed Olivia to know that they got home at 1:56 with such confidence, what other events did that camera pick up?
Olivia Gonzalez isn't waiting for police. She's tracking down her own leads to find her sister Kaylee's killer.
We're not getting any answers, and we're not going to settle for that.
Hi. It was Olivia who found the potentially crucial video of her sister and Madison Mogan at a food truck just hours before they were murdered. She also tracked down their Uber driver.
I found neighbors' Ring camera footage so that I can verify that the Uber driver took her home.
And I mean, there you have it, proof positive that she has seen Ring camera footage close enough to the house for her to feel satisfied that the driver took her home, knowing that she said concrete is all that we can go off of, and that she was such an absolute efficient and precise investigator in the tragic homicide of her very own sister, her two sisters, and also Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle. May they rest in peace. May we find justice for these victims and peace for their families. This is Kelly from Watts the Obsession. Thanks. So that was for you, Double R. Yep. That's what she said. Concrete is what we can go off of. What a great statement. I don't know. I get a little defensive when people, yeah, Sherry, I hope you don't mind if I pin this comment. I'm going to do it. Tell me stop now if you don't want me to. It says, I feel like there are a few YouTube channels that need content and are doing the innocent thing. They are making things up to do it. Absolutely. And they've made up a whole narrative, and they have a whole cast of characters supporting their narrative. Like, would you say Mike, WSU Karen, and others. It's really sick. I know that's what's going on. A lot of people have asked me for the information that I had to prove that WSU Kim was a catfish based on my security, my YouTube security guy that, just checks in on things every now and then, runs some reports. And, he's very clear on that. I sent it to a few people, and I had so many requests of that, guys. I just couldn't get back to everyone on it. And I was like, should I just put out a video or members only video giving people the information? But I don't want to be that channel that is trashing other people, talking poorly of them. I think that when people do things like what that WSU Kim did, unless she was getting paid, and then that makes you an issue of greed and gluttony and disgustingness, I think it's usually rooted in mental illness. When there are YouTube channels that would just have a lull in revenue and content and views, if not for making things up about this horrific crime that should be treated with absolute respect, and when we are applying scrutiny and discrimination to looking at this situation, we should be looking for facts. We should be looking for answers. We should be looking for justice for the victims and peace for the families. And that is the only way I can see it. I don't go much broader than that. So when it comes to YouTube creators who are just making shit up to line their own pockets, shame on you. It's disgusting. I've lost all respect for all of them. Of the ones that I'm aware of, I know who they are. I've got your name. I've got your number. Karma's a bitch. Sorry. I feel strongly on that. Yeah. It's called common sense. You can literally click through the BS clout chasers, but that is the way that you see it. Hi, Midge Elkins. That is the way that you see it, Double R. But, I think that there's a lot of people that, come to YouTube. And we've talked about this before on this channel. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of people, come to any kind of community. If you go out to a bar, if you go to the gym, well, maybe you're just extra. But if you go to anything that's social, whether it's online or, in the physical space, you're doing so because you want to connect to others for a number of reasons. None of them are better or worse than the others, okay? But I think a lot of people, there are some people that come come to YouTube like any other community, and they have an interest in something and it's a perfectly healthy thing. I think for some other people, it can be filling a void. It can be overcompensating for other areas of their life that they feel are lacking. And I'm not saying that anybody is lacking. I don't judge people like that. But, when they are, like when we welcome people here, I would just want, especially if you're new to the channel, you to know that it's authentic, it's sincere. And like, that is really how our community is. That's really how I am. That's really how the moderators are and all the people, that tend to come to this channel. But when people who are looking for that community and just maybe looking for that comfort or looking for that connection, or maybe, my God, COVID just ended. Literally, people lost. There's people out there that lost, their closest family members, their closest friends, their jobs, their livelihoods, their earnings, their homes. They don't have a lot left. So when somebody who is one of those creators who is greedy and gluttonous and disgusting and is making shit up to line their own pockets, but they welcome the people in a seemingly authentic way, because people who are going to do that are often good gaslighters. They are usually good manipulators. And I am saying this from a clinical perspective. These are facts that are evidence-based, known to be true. There's certain kinds of people, and maybe each of us have been that kind of person at some time, or maybe we are now. Again, I'm not making a judgment, but there's a certain kind of people that is really going to take to that. And they're going to, attract each other and build up larger communities than there should be for channels that are led by creators who are just making up bullshit to line their own pockets while they gaslight and manipulate for their own sociopathic, male, social, adaptive reasons. For some people, it's harder to spot that than maybe it is for some of you, Hope that made sense. Yes, Angel D. Unbelievable. And then subscribers spread it and say it like it's facts. And that's why, and that is why my two friends from Sigma Chi from the University of Idaho, felt compelled to speak out, and some members of the Chapin families. And then, me, in listening to them, followed suit in my willingness to speak out with them, because I saw the damage that these channels and these creators and these lies, I saw the damage that it was doing just in general. But I had this really unique perspective with this case, and I don't think it makes me special or anything. It was just a matter of happenstance that I had a closer view of it and experience of it than I typically do or have with any other case, because I don't normally personally connect with people in the true crime cases that I cover. I don't think it would be a healthy thing to always do that. I don't think it would be a healthy thing to always seek that out. But in this case, it just happened. What's being done is not excusable. Hi, Midge. Hi, Kelly. As always, this live has been so great. Thank you so much, Midge. And I got your last email. I'm so glad that things are looking up for you guys. And when I just sent out that group email earlier, I was thinking I've got to email Midge back, and I'm so sorry I haven't. But you are always in my heart and my thoughts and in my prayers, for real. Sherry, yeah, I'm with you. I will not watch them ever again. I am so with you. I'm so happy to hear that from people. Not because like I was saying to you, Sherry, when she was saying she saw something on J for Justice and she wasn't sure if she should say the other channel. I said, on this channel, I like to support other creators, but thank you for being considerate of that. And I do. I'd so much, and I always do. I do support other creators often. I'd much rather do that than speak poorly of them. But people show up as who they are, when you can cut through all the BS. Wow, Mike, I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. And this is a condition that I actually deal with in my work. Mike says, promising research is being done, analyzing children's eyes to see how at risk they are of developing schizophrenia. I absolutely not heard that, and I cannot believe that. I'm going to look into that. Thank you, Mike. Wow. Oh. Angel says, I can't believe some of the channels I watch have turned out to be complete money grabbing liars. Hey man, I know, I'm with you. I watched them too. And I can't, and some of them, sometimes I consider the creators friends. So, you know, how much of a fool did I feel like, you know, but we live and we learn. And again, to the point when I was saying to Double R, even with myself, I don't have to say from, you know, maybe Double R can spot this and another person can't. Even myself, sometimes I can spot it, sometimes I can't. Sometimes it's about my relationship with a person. Sometimes it's about some own blinder I might have on, or sometimes it's just about like how life is going at that time. Life is freaking hard, man. Sometimes you're just like feeling like beaten down and weak, and you've given your day your all, and you don't have much left to give, and you become vulnerable to the people who like to manipulate and gaslight. Exactly. Mike, this is fascinating to me. Just learned that eyes are made up of the exact same tissue as the brain. I didn't know that either, and I'm a behavioral therapist. Go me. It's like the brain sprouted light sensors. Damn, just thought of that when I was watching Noticing the Sadness on the Goncalves families. That's amazing, Mike. Thank you for sharing that. That's crazy. That's wild. Huh. Thank you. That's amazing. Developing it earlier or later in life, usually the early 20s. Schizophrenia, like, you know, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, a lot of those things show up in that time frame. Not always, but that is why for a lot of these things, schizophrenia, but the things I just mentioned and many more, a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, some either will not, or they are extremely reluctant to diagnose those things before the human brain fully matures. As I've talked about on this channel a number of times from my behavioral therapy perspective, the human brain does not finish maturing until generally between the ages of 24 and a half and 26, somewhere in there. So even, I mean, and a lot of doctors or psychiatrists will diagnose earlier than 24 or 26, but until you approach that full brain maturity age, a lot, you know, a common thought is to diagnose conditions of the brain is a premature diagnosis. Oh, Mrs. B, thank you so much. I had to come back. I was listening with my eyes closed, but I respect you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Exactly for this reason. You respect that this is a real crime and it's happened to real people. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you. Love you too, Mrs. P. Good night. Oh, that was very nice. It's a generation that has never seen Dead Poet Society where you will learn to think for yourselves. Oh, but that was like the stuff our childhoods were made of. I always tell my son, so I'm 44. I know that a lot of you, or several of you at least, are around my age. It's kind of interesting how that happens. I always tell my son, or my students too, or the people, the kids, the young adults that I work with, you know, I kind of tease them. I was like, my generation had the best movies, the best TV, the best music, and I just fully believe that. There ain't nothing like it. Angel D says, yes, it's all about wanting the truth, wanting justice for the victims. Yes. Sherry says, exactly. I love it here. This channel uses common sense. Yes. Oh, yes. Common sense. I don't want to offend anybody, but I was going to say we pray to the God of common sense. That could be offensive to some people, but we value common sense greatly. Mike is continuing to blow my mind, saying people with thinner and smaller, more sensitive to light corneas tend to be more at risk for developing schizophrenia. That's blowing my mind. I'm going to have to go research this tomorrow. Angel D rightly points out that narcissists prey on empathetic, kind-hearted people. That's right. I got you. DC says the truth is paramount. Lies will always come back for you. Mm-hmm. Double R says, I was scheduled for jury duty this past Tuesday, but it was canceled Monday at 4:30. I did not enjoy it, but my third time, if I went, couldn't imagine facing a trial like this. Yeah. Angel says, thanks for the live. I'm glad I actually made to participate instead of arriving at the very end. I'm glad you made it too, Angel D. It's a pleasure having you. Eric Schultz says, Kim, I hope you are still good with my boys at Drunk Turkey. I'm going to ask Daniel to have you on again. So what's that about? Trolley? Oh, you mean Watts. Oh my God. I thought you were, please don't get me mixed up with her. Please, for the love of God. No, yeah, I would, no, I'm totally good. I'm totally good with them as far as I know. I just haven't had any other creators on or been on any other channels because, you know, like I told, you know, my career life has been like wild and there's everything. But, you know, I hate using excuse. Ew, life is busy. Life is busy for everyone. We all have important things to attend to. The truth of it is, you know, and like I was asking some of you guys, hey, if you want to help out with merch, that would be great. I am so blessed and grateful and just so appreciative and like in awe how fast this channel has been growing. But I am one person. I literally do everything on this channel, like everything. My moderators, thank you guys. Bless your souls. You are so freaking helpful and amazing. And I would love for some of you to step up and do a little more if you'd like. Like there's a couple people that I, have little like side gigs doing research and things like that. But I'm an only child. I was a sole proprietor. I am a single mom. I am a one person. I have a hard time allowing people to help me or figuring out how to let people help me with something. But the channel has grown to the point where I really need help with things. Guys, I need some fucking help. Help me. No, seriously though. A lot of things that I've wanted to do, I'm like, oh, I'm working on this. I'm working on this. I really am working on all those things. I just can't close the loop on them like I used to be because as the channel gets bigger, everything just gets bigger and more. And yeah, I would love to be on Drunk Turkey again, Eric. I just kind of spun out there. But yeah, if anyone wants to help out with research, with merch stuff, with, I don't know, just general channel promotion, because all of these things really have to be taking place because I want to expand so I can bring more people on to do side gigs and share that. And also it's been like a few months since I've done any like fundraising, initiative, which I used to do like almost every month, especially when this channel first started. Like I supported a whole lot of Watts and ours, but yeah, I don't know. Just yeah, email me if any of that made sense to you and you have an interest, because I have got to move things along, but I do need help. Yeah, totally go with Daniel. And Double R says, WTO, could you find where BK's sister quoted that she believed he was capable? No, I cannot find that, and I've looked for it. Jody's Cool says, but aren't these channels just asking the questions that the defense are going to ask? I like learning about that, how the defense will come at this. Yeah, and I think you have a good point there, and I think it's interesting to look at how the defense is going to come at it as well. But here's where I see the difference. The defense's job is to defend this person, this suspect, within the parameters of the law with everything that they've got. And they have a professional responsibility, and it's a high bar to do so to such a degree. And if they fail to do so, there are serious consequences that mean a lot to them, okay? These channels that are just making shit up are able to do so in an unregulated fashion without any consequences until their gig is finally up or they can't find enough people who are in the right kind of vulnerable or like empathetic space to connect with their whatever it is they're selling. A defense attorney, the questions the defense asks, I think that they generally have the best intentions for justice overall and for their client. I think, you know, attorneys in general don't stand in a litigation situation if they don't have those, if their morals and ethics aren't truly aligned with that in some way. These creators that are spewing bullshit just have no morals or ethics, and they're fueled by greed and selfishness. So that's where I see the difference. Eric, hey, thanks for becoming a member. Welcome, friend. Thank you very much. I don't know what I said, but thank you. Red Sassy Fox 19. That was like a long time ago. Jody says, maybe I'm missing something. I don't see any lies. Well, we can, yeah. And I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know if it's Crime Circus that necessarily, I don't know. I think there's definitely, yeah. We'll talk. Eric says, do you guys think it's possible Dylan got some video on her phone of him walking out? Well, I did that one live stream. I have to make a shorter video about this. And this is one that I want to do and I can do, but I'm just hemming and hawing about exactly what I want to say. And the people that I'm in contact with at the university, I want to do them right. So it was a live stream. I did it. Ended up being like way too long. And I just couldn't get to the point because I was nervous about saying it. But I've already said it. So I just need to be more concise about it. So we know that there was this whole issue of the defense coming out saying Bethany Funk had exculpatory evidence. Well, you know, we're all wondering what the hell are they talking about? So what I have learned, and I'll tell the story more precisely again, but I'm just going to say this to you guys who are here now or watching the replay. Hi. Is that, and I believe this is true, that the exculpatory evidence that Bethany Funk has is that she saw him leaving from the downstairs window, so looking out the side of the house that's opposite of the sliding glass doors. And I will go into more detail about that, but I'm quite sure you're going to hear about that in trial. You're going to hear about that in trial. Arlene says, Kelly, I like you being here more than there. Oh, okay, I got you. Thank you, Arlene. How are you doing, Arlene? Aw, happy birthday to DC Primetime. How old were you? You're just a little younger than me, right? Happy birthday to DC Primetime. Happy birthday to DC Primetime. Happy birthday to DC Primetime. Yes, thank you, Jody. It's cool. There is no the in Kelly's email address. That's right. Thank you, Jody. So it's just wattstheobsession@gmail.com. There you go. And moderators, I'm going to make like something separate for you guys so I can be in touch with you more regularly without having to go through like all of the email, because the email is too overwhelming as well. If I have any moderators that would like the task of going through email, raise your hand, because I've got an email account for you to file through. Yeah, I feel you on that, Angel D. Yeah, Sherry, I think this is what like Jody was asking, and I think you get it. And I love Jody, but Sherry says they are not only asking questions, they are answering them with stuff they've made up. That was a more concise difference that you're pointing out, Sherry. Thank you. Oh, hey, Drunk Turkey Show. Hey, and Daniel's here. Awesome. Hi, Daniel. How are you? We're good, right, Daniel? Someone was just asking. I was like, yeah, I think we're good. I've just been really crazy busy, even though I don't like using busy as an excuse. I catch you guys when I can and haven't been at live streams for anyone. And actually, possibly, believe it or not, the last one I may have been at was Drunk Turkey Show. No, I don't know. I can't. I don't even know. But hey, I'm glad you're here. I hope everything's going awesome for you guys. Drunk Turkey's ears were ringing. Oh my gosh, Drunk Turkey Show. While you're here, just stay with me for a second here, because I was thinking about this too. Just when Eric asked that question, I was like, yeah, of course we're cool. Wait a minute. What was that? Hold it. There was a video that I made, and I included something. There was like an interview with Christy Gonzalez, and I made like a little joke about your channel or you guys, and it was like so super lighthearted, and I was like, I hope they didn't take that in like a mean way. Wait, let me see if I can find it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, was this it? Oh, wait. I think I got it here. I'm a bad multitasker, but I am doing something, I swear, so just hold on. Scanning for keywords, Okay. Oh, here. While I'm trying to find this, I'm going to entertain you. Oh, wait. No, I'm fine. Now I'm just talking to myself. Oh, no, that's not good. Chew on this for a hot second. I put this video, I put it out the first time, like a long time ago. And then I kind of redid it.
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match. They don't match. He doesn't have to go up the steps.
Autopsies on the 4 students found each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker, and there was no sexual assault.
Can you make that bigger?
Her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
The arrest of 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger rocked the nation.
Kohberger studied criminal justice at an advanced level, having gotten a master's from DeSales University in Pennsylvania in 2022. According to the school there, he appears to once have posted on Reddit asking for volunteers for a research project where he was studying the criminal mind.
Kohberger charged with 4 counts of murder for the deaths of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin on November 13th. He has not entered a plea. In the affidavit for his arrest, police say they found DNA that tied him to the crime scene.
The question still lingers: who was targeted, if anyone, or were several of the victims targeted in the Idaho 4 tragedy? It seems like Stephen Gonsalves was definitely right on this one. The perpetrator, Bryan Kohberger, did not need to go up the stairs from the second floor to the 3rd floor.
And what additional information about this crime do we know that has not been disclosed yet by law enforcement? Well, this video is going to tell you all about it. It seems that although the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, have not said much since this tragedy has occurred, they have let us know more about the crime than perhaps even they realized.
It is understood, although it has not been confirmed by law enforcement, that Kohberger must have entered through the 2nd floor sliding glass door or window that was in ground level, which was on the 2nd floor. I guess there's another possibility in my mind, which would be to come right through the front door if he had something to do with the ordering of the Jack in the Box late night snack that is said to have been ordered by Xana, but we will visit that later this week. So if Bryan Kohberger came in through the 1st or 2nd floor, he definitely did not need to go up the stairs to the 3rd floor. We can also tell from the probable cause affidavit that Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion, I firmly believe he was not in the house at 1122 King Road prior to the victims arriving home from wherever they were that evening. The timeline in the probable cause affidavit.
Oh, I'm sorry. We are going to interrupt this video so I can play the one that I was originally looking for. You with me? You with me, Drunk Turkey Show? All right. So this is the one that I was talking about. Oh, someone say nice things about Drunk Turkey Show. Oh, there. I gotcha. Okay, here it is. Yeah. Well, you're going to see it now. All right. I think you'll think it's funny too. But you know how just sometimes you're like, oh, I hope that. Oh, that's not it. So many videos on deck here. No, oh crap. I just closed that. Oh my god, this is comical. Okay, I know which one it is now, though. I can just pull up really quick. Too many videos. So if somebody that wants to take a What's the Obsession little jobby task, one can be clean out the videos that we don't need here anymore. All right, here's the video. All right, Daniel. So yeah, I cited you guys here. I think I let you know that I did.
According to an affidavit, Funk was in a first-floor bedroom of the apartment house during the early morning of the murders on November 13th. A criminal investigator for Kohberger's defense writes that Funk has information that is, quote, exculpatory to the defendant, and adds it's, quote, unique to her experiences and cannot be provided by another witness.
One thing back to the affidavit that I think a lot of people were surprised by was the fact that one of the roommates was awake when the killer walked by, and that the 911 call wasn't made until hours and hours later.
A source close to the victims' families has told me that Bethany never ever emerged from the basement room. Like, she never came upstairs.
So many questions are asked about the surviving roommates of the Idaho 4 tragedy, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. From my perspective, questions from all of you and also in my own mind pertain primarily to Dylan Mortensen. And I think that is because what we've learned through the probable cause affidavit, we know certain things that Dylan Mortensen saw, things that she heard, and we get a sense of the apprehension and trepidation she was experiencing on that evening when she looked out her door on 3 different occasions. The words that she believes that she heard were troubling. Things like Kelly Gonsalves saying, "I think somebody's here," and then hearing Xana crying, and then hearing a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," clearly alarmed her, because at the end of the day, she claimed she was in a frozen shock phase. You may have seen I posted a video just a few days ago that talks about the 5 common responses that human beings have to extreme fear, shock, and trauma, the 5 F's as we call them, and human beings don't have a choice over how they react to extreme fear, shock, or trauma when we encounter it, because it is our survival instinct that takes over and guides us through that. It's really an involuntary response. Nevertheless, there are questions that remain about what happened that evening after specifically Dylan Mortensen heard and saw certain things. And of course, there is the big question, why the 8-hour time lapse between when the tragedies occurred and when 911 was finally called. This video is going to go over what we do know about Dylan Mortensen's experience and what the victims' families might know and what they themselves have asked about her experience. So come on in closer, everybody. Let's gather around the What's the Obsession Storytime campfire. I'm going to explain a few things to you in detail. They are pieces of the puzzle that are corroborated and that make good sense, and that finally start to paint a more clear picture of why that 911 call was so delayed, or at least what was happening during those 8 hours. Rather recently, a little less than 4 weeks ago, Mrs. Gonsalves, Kaylee's mother, contacted a channel called The Drunk Turkey Show and shared, dun, 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 Danielle, here you go. It's your big moment. Just kidding. But this is it. And after this, shared with the creators some details of her experience and what she knows from the perspective of the victims' families. Now, I want to be clear on the details of how certain information came about. So, Christy Gonsalves did not herself speak. She spoke to Daniel, the creator of the Drunk Turkey Show, or one of the creators, and he then relayed to us through a live stream what she said. And what Christy Gonsalves had to say about Dylan Mortensen's actions that evening was a shocking confirmation. Now, before I go on to share those details, I do need to say that the creators of the Drunk Turkey Show decided to take that live stream down shortly after it aired. I personally was very interested in hearing the details of what Daniel had to say about what Christy told him, because at the time I was very focused on making sure that y'all knew that this false narrative that told people that lots and lots of students knew about the and Daniel, that's not the Drunk Turkey Show's false narrative. And I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Tragedy hours before 911 was called was not true, not accurate at all. And the reason that is important to me is because it's important to the Chapin family. And it's important to a couple students in particular that I've become close with over the past 7 months in talking about this case. But as far as they tell it, it's important to a lot of students who don't want the world to think that they all knew that their friends were in that house dying or having lost their lives already, and they, the students, didn't do a damn thing about it. It's also important to me because the truth is important to this channel. So in talking to the Drunk Turkey Show, Mrs. Gonsalves makes a reference to the probable cause affidavit and the estimated time of the attack according to the probable cause affidavit. 5 pages into the PCA, following the section where the author of the PCA talks about the statements that Dylan Mortensen made to investigators that describe what she heard and saw, this is said regarding the time of the attacks. The combination of Dylan Mortensen's statements to law enforcement reviews of forensic downloads of records from Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen's phone and video of a suspect, as described below, leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. So what Kelly's mother shared with Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show that she had not spoken about before, and surprisingly, neither had her husband. Oh, wait, I just want to read this because I want Daniel to say his piece and say what I intended. Maybe I should have been more clear about it, but okay. I took it down because people were saying I said Chrissy was 100% certain BK was the guy, and what I had said after talking to her was I was more confident he was guilty, and I didn't want the misrepresentation. I totally agree with that. And I had that episode, Daniel, and I would never play any of it because I know that you guys took it down, and I would never, like, you took it down. You don't want it out there. I would never put it back out there. The only reason that I wanted, like, you know, if something, I just, like, I download things if I want to watch them, and maybe I'm going to be at WOR, never mind where I'm going to be, but sometimes I want to watch things that when I'm not going to be online or whatever, right? So that was the only reason, and I explained why I was really interested in what you had to say, and I know that you understand why, and I think that you knew my kind of, like, dogged interest in certain topics at that time. So exactly what Daniel's saying right here is completely accurate too. I can certainly confirm that, and I knew why you took it down. I think you were right to do so because I think that if you didn't, and that was the only time Christy Gonzalez actually came out and said something so directly, people would have taken advantage of that on your channel's energy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a wise move. And Steve, was that she had been made aware that after Dylan Mortensen saw that figure clad in black and heard all of the things she heard and was, according to her, in a frozen shock phase, she called all of the roommates in the house to check up on them to see what was going on, if they were okay, because obviously she was very alarmed. I'm going to play a short clip, and this is the creator, Jules of All Trades True Crime, stating her opinion about what we're talking about right now. And I think she states her opinion very clearly and candidly, for sure. And my intention in putting this on here was I was really trying to give, like, all perspectives and reactions to everything that was going on. And I couldn't hold this reaction as my own because this reaction that Jules is giving, it was not my reaction. So that's why.
None of that is in the little recap. And that's very curious to me because the information about the roommate.
But Daniel, if you do put it back out, then that'll all be sorted, right? So
is drastic. And it's not just about if they're talking to the victims' families or not. It was also said that Christy heard that the reason why the 4:25 a.m. time slot is on the PCA is because Dylan was calling all of the roommates. So that's proof right there that she was not in no crazy shock phase where she couldn't fathom to do anything but stand there and complete, oh my God. She had the ability to call several people's phone numbers. Didn't call 911 though. So you can dial all them digits, but you can't dial 3 of them. That doesn't make sense.
Christy Gonzalez. And I just do have to say, I do like Jules, but the opinion expressed there, it's not how I view what happened with Drunk Turkey shows, you know, taken down. And it's not how I view Dylan's reaction. I've done several videos where I've talked about possibilities of that. I have questions, but my reaction is not as... I'm reserving judgment because I think there's a lot of possibilities that explain why she reacted the way she did. It said that she came to know that the estimated time of the attack in the probable cause affidavit. Yeah, no, I know that she is. Yeah, and after, yeah, and I also, let me type in that. Drunk Turkey says Jules is wrong about what I said, and because I have been able to watch that information a couple times because I downloaded it so I could watch on my lunch break or whatever. I stand by what is being said right here that that was not an accurate description or recap of what Daniel said.
It was largely due to the records from Dylan's phone and her contacting all of the roommates in the house at a certain time. So that most likely was right before 4:25. Hence, the time frame that investigators narrowed it down to was the attacks being between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Of course, with these other two pieces of information that they mention. Now, I think it is very interesting that in the probable cause affidavit, they say that they determined the likely time of the attacks due to these three things. And how interesting is this? So these three factors are: number one, Dylan Mortensen's statement to investigators; number two, forensic downloads of Dylan and Bethany's phones; and number three, videos of a car in the area that appeared to be driving around in an unusual way or pattern. And we've learned some details about that. So you have to ask yourself, what is it about each of these three items that allowed investigators to zoom in on that time frame from 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. as being the likely time of the attacks? Well, I think number three, the videos of the car in the area moving around, I think that one is rather obvious. So let's look at number one and number two. Number one, Dylan Mortensen's statements to investigators. So we know what Dylan said that caused investigators to perhaps start that time frame at 4 a.m. According to the PCA, it is said that Dylan told investigators that she woke up around 4 a.m. because she heard certain noises, right? But is it also something in Dylan's statements that we do not know that caused them to close out that time frame at 4:25 a.m.? Okay, so I want to read what Daniel just said about that. I'm so glad. Thank you for being here, Daniel. I'm glad we have your voice here. So Drunk Turkey Show Daniel says, Christy told me at the first call interview that she heard a rumor Dylan may have called. I asked her if she had access to her phone records. On the second interview, she stated Dylan didn't call per her records. And I think that is because it wasn't a call. It was a different method of communication. But thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Or number two, looking at the idea of it was in part the forensic downloads of Dylan and Bethany's phones that allowed them to zero in on the time frame 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. So we can certainly surmise that there must have been activity on Dylan's phone that helped them to determine that time frame. But look, also Bethany's phone. I mean, what Christy Gonsalves shared with the Drunk Turkey Show, that we learned that Dylan Mortensen contacted all of the roommates after she knew that something was very strange and she saw the man clad in black with the bushy eyebrows. That makes sense that if Dylan Mortensen was texting or calling everybody, it would have been the forensic download of her phone that gave them an indicator of this time frame. But they specifically also mentioned Bethany's phone. So then Danielle says, thank you so much for responding to this and whatnot, says, correct, she did not have access to Kelly's text messages as they didn't get back the phone back, and text or Snapchats wouldn't be on record. Yeah. So yes, exactly. So see, we're figuring stuff out. Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, that's what it's all about. So what is it about Bethany's phone, or that is on Bethany's phone, that helped them to zero in on that time frame of 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m.? Everything in this probable cause affidavit, and any probable cause affidavit, should be very accurate and intentional. Sorry. So, Angel D says, people were pissed that Christy personally contacted Drunk Turkey Show, in my humble opinion. Then everyone in chat was
angry because they said they were expecting an interview with Christy. I don't think it was meant to be misleading. I know that some people are thinking that. I personally didn't think that's what it meant, but I see how people could have thought that. But then Jeannie Ramsey says, Angel D, that's crazy. They were angry. She talked to them. It's her right as a victim to talk wherever she wants. I personally think, in my humble, not so humble opinion, I think the big problem with that, Daniel and everybody else, is I was happy that I think I talked to you about this, Daniel. I was happy she contacted you and that she had a voice and that this like voice was coming out and that like a little bit more of voices that were closer to what happened in the investigation and knowing the facts had somewhere to speak. I think that's a freaking awesome thing. If it's moving towards justice for the victims and peace for the families and the truth, like I'm all about it. I think my clear perception from just kind of standing back and observing other than making this video was there was just a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of jealousy that it was Drunk Turkey Show that Christy contacted. And, you know, like Sherry, like you were mentioning, those channels that are, you know, kind of like, you know, wouldn't have any content if they didn't make shit up for all the wrong reasons, were, you know, pretty damn pissed. Why wasn't it me? I feel pretty clear that that's why all the weirdness about it.
So if it wasn't very intentional to include Bethany's phone in the criteria that was used to narrow down the time frame of the likely attacks, her name would not be here. And on the other hand, if it was simply Dylan texting all of the roommates in the house around or a little before 4:25 a.m. that caused them to close out that time frame of likelihood of the attacks of 4 to 4:25, then they would have said perhaps that it was the forensic download of Dylan's phone, Bethany's phone, and the other three roommates' phones. But that is not what is said here. So this makes me wonder, did Dylan, yes, in fact, contact all of the roommates, which is in contradiction to the statement of frozen shock phase? And I need to just pause and say, I am not trying to throw shade on Dylan. I don't think that she had any bad intentions in anything that she did that evening. And I feel very badly for Dylan and what she has been through. But I think that this needs to be discussed because it could be a very important piece of the puzzle. So the fact that the PCA mentions Dylan's phone and Bethany's phone, what was found on their phones that helped them to narrow down the time frame, says to me, it feels very likely that Dylan contacted all of the roommates and Bethany responded. So if that is in fact true, and Dylan contacted all of the roommates and Bethany responded, that significantly changes the story regarding what we all believe we know about that part of the case and the roommates' knowledge of what happened, you know, on a very basic level. It changes that significantly. That would mean that Bethany knew that something was amiss in the house, whether she actually did come up the stairs or not. It said that she did not, but we still do not know. But to me, this indicates, and I have a very strong feeling that this must be the case as we put all of the pieces together, that somewhere around 4:15, 4:25 a.m., Bethany knew that something was very wrong in that house as well. So to me, this expands the question of not just why didn't Dylan contact 911, why didn't Bethany or Dylan call 911? I feel like with this case, as we go along, questions always become more complicated rather than just answered, set aside, or simplified. Please leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about that. I am so interested to hear what y'all think about that. So I personally don't
just pick up kind of the topic of the day, or the thing that people are speculating about at the moment, and talk about it on this channel. In fact, I intentionally do not do that, but I think there is something significant here. So as I was thinking about all of this, I remembered something that I had put in the back of my memory and I had almost forgot, which was surprising to me because of how I feel about the Chapin family and Ethan's circle of friends. Do you all remember way back when, in February, this was reported? Here's a headline. It says, "Family of Idaho murder victim Ethan Chapin questioned why surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen didn't call the cops after hearing crying and screaming, and claims she called all of the girls in the house rather than 911. So the claim here that is made by some members of the Chapin family is very much in line with what Christy Gonzalez said to the Drunk Turkey Show, that, well, the simple fact that Dylan Mortensen called all of the roommates because she was alarmed, she was scared. I'm not sure what the word is because we don't know too many details about how she was feeling truly. All we've heard is frozen shock phase, which I'm really, really starting to question at this point. This report regarding what the Chapins were questioning corroborates what Christy Gonzalez said just 4 weeks ago. To Daniel's Drunk Turkey Show. A family member of murdered University of Idaho student Ethan Chapin has questioned why the roommates who survived the slayings did not call the police. An account believed to be belonging to Ethan's sister-in-law made several posts online before the arrest. And Ethan does have a sister-in-law. I made a video about this too. Ethan has his two triplet siblings, and he has 3 half-siblings that are his father's biological children, but not his mother's. Arrest affidavit was unsealed for the suspected quadruple murders. The court document detailed how surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen came face to face with a masked man on the night of the murders. Ethan's sister-in-law has since revealed that Dylan, who was in the property at the time of the killings along with Bethany Funk, and this is going to be a direct quote from the Reddit post where Reddit supposedly verified the identity of the poster as being who she claimed to be and the sister-in-law of Ethan Chapin. The post says, Dylan supposedly called all of the girls in the house after the crying and screaming stopped and no one answered, and she still didn't call the police. She needs to explain herself and her actions. When she was questioned about who called the police, she added, 911 caller was the friend who went to the house because Dylan called him to come over because she was scared from what she heard in the night. She goes on to say, he went to Xana and Ethan's room first, then called 911. Why Dylan or Bethany didn't call the police once is a question. Now, I do want to say that this report is completely consistent with what the 2 University of Idaho fraternity brothers of Ethan Chapin have told me for the past 7 months. Now, this article goes on to talk about another point that I want to raise here in this video. It says, Mortensen told cops she was awoken at around 4 a.m. by what sounded like victim Kelly Gonzalez playing with her dog in a 3rd floor bedroom. She says she looked out of her room but didn't see anything, looking again on the second occasion when she thought she heard Dana Kernodle was crying. Mortensen stated she opened the door for the 3rd time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. The man moved towards her, she said, but she remained in a frozen shock phase as he continued past her, but let her survive. Okay, guys, I want to then refer to one small paragraph in the probable cause affidavit that says, at approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 11 At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up a distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. Okay, so a dog started barking and was heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. So we know that Murphy, Kaylee's dog, was found in Kaylee's bedroom, and we know that Maddie and Kaylee were in Maddie's bedroom. So if you're looking at the house from an outside perspective here, Xana's bedroom is all the way over here. Kaylee and Maddie are upstairs here on the 3rd floor, and Dylan is directly beneath them on the main or 2nd floor. Now, as we look at this 3D walkthrough of the inside of the King Road residence, we see that Dylan's bedroom is directly, exactly beneath Maddie's bedroom. Like Maddie's bed is on top of Dylan's bed, essentially. You see here, it's just a straight drop down. So now let's consider how, guys, I have some pretty heavy storms coming through. If for some reason this cuts out, and I'm going to end very soon, but if it cuts out and I don't say goodbye, I just want you to know it's why. Close in proximity, these attacks were happening to where Dylan was in her bedroom. Is it possible she didn't hear more than was disclosed in the PCA? I honestly do not think that is humanly, earthly possible. Now, also take into consideration that Kaylee's dog Murphy started barking and barked continuously beginning at 4:17 a.m. We know that Dylan was up around 4 a.m. She heard what she heard. She saw what she saw, that which we know through the PCA. She certainly didn't just fall back to sleep. There's no way that happened. I don't think that's physiologically possible. Obviously, that's my opinion, but it's my informed opinion. So when we put all of this together, everything we know that was seen and heard, plus the idea that the dog is barking right upstairs, right over Dylan's bedroom. And now I believe I know that there were phone calls being made or texts being made to all of the roommates, and that there was correspondence between Dylan and Bethany around, 4:15, 4:25, I'm estimating. And the dog is barking like crazy. Guys, this is starting to paint a picture of complete chaos in that house at that time. Now, remember, a murderer was just in and out of the house. The DoorDash was just dropped off. Xana had just gone to get the DoorDash. It's not like this attack occurred. Dylan peeked outside of her door 3 times, went back in, closed it, locked it, and was like, ooh, and went back to bed, and all was quiet. No, guys. The picture that we now can see from what we know paints a very chaotic scene that must have had some significant noise going on. So what's up with that? I mean, I'm finding it hard to believe even now that Bethany wasn't completely aware of all of the chaos that was going on. I really believe that she was communicating with Dylan in those late or early morning hours. And I'm not sure what to make of the rest of this. I have a lot of thinking and some more research to do on this for sure. And what I want to know most is what you guys think. Please leave a comment and let us know what you think. We all want to know what you think. And I really want to know what you think on this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please click like and subscribe and hit the bell for future notifications. And I hope to see you again soon. And I hope to hear from you on this one. Okay, yeah, so that was that. So, yeah, all thanks to Drunk Turkey Show being here. So, yeah, Yeah, and and in this video and some others that I made, there's also, like there's other information I found that I've learned that corroborates with these things, like the drunk turkey show heard from Christy Gonsalves that Ethan Chapin's sister-in-law said in a Reddit post. So, whenever I choose a topic and I put material out on it, it's always very deliberate. Nothing haphazard on this channel. It's very happy to think that all that happened under one roof. So glad you're here, Ho Chi Winner, and absolutely it is. Eric Schultz, not dumb question. So they're not going to tear the house down. Nope. There was a executive order for the house to not be torn down until when, guys? I just can't recall right now. I'm tired. Yeah, but for a while. Oh. Tony says, I feel that both must have known something was wrong. I have that sense too, and I don't know what happened. And I think, there's so many things that could explain the curiosities and the concerns and the questions that we have. I don't want to point fingers without, any reason to point fingers. But with the intensity of what happened, with what was going on with their senses, just the energy of it, the horror of it. Like, I really do believe that, like animals can smell your emotions. Like, emotions are more than something you just feel inside. They emanate an energy. They emanate tangible things that are perceivable, that others can perceive with their own senses. With so much going on, I just have to believe that they had a sense, Tony, like you're saying, that, something was going on. Hi, honey bun. If she thought that the noise was anything to be scared of, she probably wouldn't have opened the door, I would think. Possibly. I think that, again, I think that I really do believe that when faced with fear or extreme terror or the sense of your health or your life being threatened, the way that we respond is not how I'm sitting here on my couch right now on my computer. I'm thinking about, if this happened, this is how I would respond. That's not how it goes. The parasympathetic nervous system takes over, and how you respond is not cerebral. It's not cognitive. It's oftentimes not how you would imagine it would go down. Jeannie says, what's the obsession? Maybe they were scared. They're very young. Absolutely. I'm sure they were terrified. Even if they suspected something bad, which I don't think, they could have been scared to do anything. Well, like I said, I personally think they sensed something bad. And yeah, no, that's definitely very possible. DC Primetime says, I'm interested to hear her testimony for sure, and Bethany Funks, but I will not vilify them without facts supporting, yes, wrongdoing. Absolutely. DW, hi DW, welcome, says DM admits hearing someone is here. That's what she thinks she heard, right? We were just talking about that. Heard crying, didn't dial 911 because she thought it may have been committed by people she knew. Okay, I see where you're going. Well, like she knew that terrible thing was going to happen. I talked to some people that I work with who know a lot more about visual snow than I do, who are in the field of psychology, psychological field as well. And the idea that I get from them, and I only know about visual snow in conjunction with a couple other conditions, which are seizures, migraines, and there's a couple other things I can't think of off the top of my head right now because I'm tired. But, they tended to feel that the idea of this visual snow here in this narrative is being a little exaggerated. But I don't know. But I just wanted to give you that feedback about what I'd heard. Good night, DC Primetime. Yeah, we're going to wrap up here soon. Sherry says, maybe it's possible that DM thought Z and E or other roommates were arguing, would not want to call. Yep, I think that is certainly a possibility as well. Jeannie, do you have a headache? I'm gathering that you have a headache. I haven't checked my text messages in forever if you did text me, but I hope that you're feeling okay. Yeah, especially with the prior noise complaints. Great point, Amy. Angel D makes an important point. I think what's in the PCA is not going to be Dylan's testimony. It's the information that was needed to secure an arrest warrant. Amen. Absolutely. They are not going to tear the house down until, here, let me look it up. just can't remember all the details. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just having to like kind of scan the stuff here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the latest. Just give me a moment, enjoy the silence. Okay. All right, so the latest article that is just popping up right now, I'll just share it with you here, and then we'll probably get wrapping up. This has been a very long live stream. Glad you guys are here. All right. Idaho student murders, King Road home won't be demolished until at least October. Let's see if the video will say it, because I'm a little tired. I'd rather do the video.
Right now, the case against the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students is heating up. Bryan Kohberger's defense team now questioning whether the evidence against him is admissible in court.
All right, so Fox 13's Maria Garcia joining us now with more on the questions his attorneys are raising at this point. Hi, Maria.
Good morning. Bryan Kohberger was back in court yesterday for a hearing that lasted about 30 minutes, and his attorney asked the court to order prosecutors to turn over more evidence. Kohberger's defense wants phone records and training records for 3 investigators and information on why the FBI expanded the range of model years of the white Hyundai Elantra that they were looking for in connection with this case.
Yes.
Kohberger's car initially fell outside of the range that authorities were publicly trying to track down. His defense team also wants access to records about how investigators handled the DNA in the case. The defense claiming the genealogy methods used by the FBI are inadmissible. Police say their evidence places Kohberger near the crime scene, and cameras show a car similar to his in the neighborhood days before the killings. They say Kohberger used his cell phone at least 12 times.
I'm glad that we're in a situation.
Okay. A father of one of the victims is pushing for.
I'm glad that we're in a situation of strength, and the evidence is there, and we feel that we can, they can go forward with this.
Okay, so this is where we stand now. A judge ruled the prosecution must turn over all of their evidence by July 14th. Meanwhile, work crews have started preparing the house where those murders took place for demolition. Crews will spend the next few weeks removing personal items for the family to take with them if they choose to. The victim's landlord originally donated the 6-bedroom rental to the university, which has since decided to demolish the home, and the school says that it does plan to create a memorial on campus to honor the victims.
This is an old
For now, I'll
video.
send it back
I
to you.
was fooled, damn it. I hate when that happens. All right, now I got to read the article. Always got to read the article. Just kidding. All right, Vernon, sorry about that. All right. So yeah, this was July 12th, as you said. So the King Road home where 4 University of Idaho students were killed last year will not be demolished until at least October, the school's president announced. Since the fateful night in November, the house on King Road, where 4 of our fellow vandals were senselessly killed, has stood a stark reminder of what we have lost. We lost our innocence and sense of safety. We realized evil can exist in our own town and lost 4 bright souls from our vandal family. Scott Green, president of the University of Idaho, said in memo Wednesday. Upon completion of the remediation of the house, including lead and asbestos abatement, we will pause demolition. We will revisit this decision in October. There is no legal requirement for leaving the house standing. Post-prosecution defense have released any interest in the house for their cases. We still fully expect to demolish the house, which was given to the university by the former owner. We believe that leaving the house standing for now is the right course to take. Previously, objections have been raised in demolishing the house, with members of the 3 victims' families signaling it should be preserved until after the trial of the man charged in the death. Absolutely. Shannon Gray, an attorney for the family of Kelly Gonsalves, one of the stabbing victims, said the university was disregarding family's request that the home be left standing until after the trial of Bryan Kohberger, which is set to begin in October. Then we know about this down here. The owner of the property donated to the school after the killings. The university announced earlier that it was planning to demolish the home. A demolition date has not been set, but the university spokesperson, Jody Walker, said the school wants the house gone before the start of the fall semester. Well, that's inconsistent with October. Gray said in an email to the Idaho Statesman that the university asked for the family's opinions and then proceeded to ignore these opinions and pursue their own self-interest. The home itself has enormous evidentiary value, as well as being the largest and one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case. That's where my opinion lies. Members of the Mogan and Knodel families also opposed demolishing the property till after the trial, the attorney said. Gray was unsure what position the Chapin family had. Members of the Chapin, Mogan, and Knodel families did not respond to requests for comment from the newspaper. Gray also represents the Gonsalves family and some torts claims. So that's where we're at. I think that's all. I believe that's what's known. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here for, 3.5 hours. Yikes. But I really appreciated spending time with you guys and hearing what you had to thought and we had to say and what you think. Yeah, my words aren't even coming out anymore. But yeah. Does anyone have any last statements? And there you go, Eric. And please check out this new upload on Gabriela Vargas. I think you guys will find it to be extremely interesting. Please check it out. Give it a like, comment. Let us know what you think. We all want to know what you think. So thank you so much, moderators. As always, subscribers, members, people that are new, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Go ahead and subscribe. We want you to come back. And all of my old friends, you guys are the bomb. And please stay safe, lock your doors, and I hope to see you back in a couple of days. thank you all so much for being here, and thank you especially to the moderators. Everyone be safe, and I'll see you soon.